After many months of fleeing from her pursuers, a very beautiful and poor mother decided to hide in an orphanage. There she was, singing a lullaby to her newborn baby, named Lu Shu, until the orphanage owner came to expel her. She then looked one last time at her baby and asked the lady to take care of him while she went to get some medicine. But after the lady agreed and saw a knot-shaped pendant, Lu Shu's mother vanished just like a disappearing smoker. Since the day she disappeared, 18 years had passed, and Lu Shu ended up becoming a bankrupt man who cared for his younger sister, Xiaoyu, and even though he was poor, he continued spending all of his money on festival schemes to make her happy. When they approached to watch the main event, the flames almost burned Lu Shu's face, but at that instant, time froze. The entire universe came to a halt, and his knot pendant shone with a golden hue. No one else noticed this fact, but Lu Shu realized that the man in front of him was not creating optical illusions and that all of his powers were real and magical. When the show ended, Lu Shu wanted to know the source behind the flames, so he went backstage with his sister, and while observing some mysterious men talking, one of them shot a tranquilizer at the magician, and Xiaoyu screamed in fear. Now their positions were compromised, but Lu Shu told everyone that they obviously had not seen them shooting a man in front of them, and if they had, they would never report it to the police or anything of the sort. Fortunately, the fools believed Lu Shu's lie, so he immediately tried to escape, but their leader did not feel comfortable letting Lu Shu leave just like that. As they walked away, a man asked if they were interested in posting videos about how to make a lot of money while being poor, but Lu Shu said he was not interested in selling courses and left. He was already bankrupt after investing in the wrong things, and now he wondered how their world had become so terrible that a person could be shot in front of them. Then, to comfort him, Xiaoyu reminded him that they are not blood relatives and that in the future, he would have a beautiful girlfriend. While he prepared dinner, she told him that the only thing she wanted to eat was his soul. After hearing this, Lu Shu decided to leave and buy ramen for her. As he crossed the street in freezing weather, we see the Isekai truck about to claim another victim, and this time the chosen one was Lu Shu. After being hit, his soul began to leave his body. But since this is a Chinese anime, Lu Shu ended up receiving a hacking system, and the noisy in his pendant began to float. When he ascended to the sky, noisy finally opened and released all of its energy to revive his heart. After resurrecting from death, he thought of only one thing, which was that the truck driver should pay for running him over. Then he began telling the man to give him all his money, but some random numbers started appearing above him, until the man decided to flee. Then, at the corner store, Lu Shu tried to buy his sister's ramen, but the store manager was shocked to see so much blood dripping from his head. So Lu Shu left and ended up running into a couple on the way home, as soon as he arrived and entered his house to take a shower. However, he noticed that the wound on his head had completely healed, and the strangest thing of all was that there was a golden scar on his hand. When he began investigating, he saw a lottery system that informed him about all the coins he had collected, and he realized that he had received these coins at the exact moment he awakened negative emotions in other people. So he decided to spend his entire balance on a wheel of fortune, because Chinese people love gambling games, and as he was trapped losing all of his money without gaining any rewards, the final spin finally gave him something, and a scroll appeared before his eyes. It had the same handwriting as the lullaby his mother used to sing to him, so he began to sing it. With the words of the song, the scroll disintegrated into a sphere of energy in front of him and from distant galaxies, and a light was sent toward Earth, and Lu Shu began absorbing all of it. When he opened his eyes, he was floating in front of a solar system. But after losing all of his coins, he realized he could become rich and laugh at his sister all night long. So, while they were awake watching romance anime between siblings, Lu Shu felt something strange happening, and when he went to the roof to investigate, he saw two suspicious men jumping across the rooftops. Before being seen, Lu Shu tried to cover his mouth, but the men had already noticed his presence. They asked what he was doing up there. Then, Lu Shu said that he had not noticed that they were jumping from one house to another, and that they looked very suspicious doing so. He revealed that he was up there simply admiring the sky, and the fools actually believed him. They told him to go home before leaving, jumping away again. While waiting inside, Xiaoyu wondered who he was talking to, but a man fell outside the window. Then, Lu Shu forced his sister to stay inside the house while he went to check, and her anger about the situation caused him to earn many more coins. Although she sneaked out behind him, he told her to call an ambulance, as the man was in bad shape. However, Lu Shu did not have money to pay the ambulance fee, so he simply wanted to leave him outside. When he said this, his system granted him coins, and it was at that moment that Lu Shu realized the man was pretending to be unconscious, so he told his sister that they should leave the man's body outside. and if he were dead, he said they could use him as fertilizer or something similar. After saying this, he earned 470 coins, and Lu Shu was happy to be on his way to becoming the next demon lord. The man tried to beg for water, so Lu Shu gave him a snowball, but the man threw it away and begged for water again. However, Lu Shu began pushing him down and teasing him mercilessly, just to earn more coin. He told him that he was only trying to help him rest, but the man was already fed up and grabbed his arm, trying to burn him. However, his heart nullified the burn and began dissipating the fire. No matter how many times the man tried to burn him, he continued earning coins from all this foolish interaction. So the man said he was only joking and wanted to leave. When he stood up, Lu Shu told the man to avoid going home because he would probably see his wife cheating on him. After saying this, he smiled and earned more points because of it. After that, inside his room, he decided to spend all of his coins and buy the first item, which was a celestial fruit. After eating it, before he realized it, a beam of light came toward him from the edge of the cosmos, and he was transported back to his solar system, where the celestial fruit became another planet. With all the energy leaving his body, he returned to reality and saw the root of a tree forming in his hand. He quickly realized that he had become much stronger than before, and after going through all of this, he wanted to accumulate even more coins to see how far he could go. Sometime later, upon seeing a fire on the news, he decided to create chaos in his school group chat, instantly earning thousands of points. The following morning, at his shop, some of his classmates saw him selling eggs but pretended not to notice him. This became his daily life, and he explained it to the man beside him, saying that most people were embarrassed to be friends with a bankrupt guy like him. After saying these words, 3 wealthy boys approached Lu Shu and tried to mock him for being poor, but he replied that they smelled worse than his expired eggs, irritating all the spoiled rich kids. Their leader tried to call him ugly, but Lu Shu said that it was his mother who was ugly and poor. The guy did not believe being called poor, so he decided to buy all the eggs to appear rich. However, Lu Shu took advantage of this moment to farm coins, announcing to everyone in line that the fool in front had bought all his eggs. Due to everyone's irritation, Lu Shu ended up earning many coins for his hack system. The wealthy boy at his school tried to show his VIP card as a method of payment, knowing that Lu Shu did not accept cards. However, at that exact moment, all the money for the eggs was stacked on the table by a beautiful girl who attended the same school as them. Her name was Quincy, and after doing this, she left, and Lu Shu told the boys to clean themselves properly before leaving home, as they stank of filth. In class, everyone saw the news about the awakening of a superhuman, when suddenly a boy arrived saying that a murder was about to happen on the rooftop. Lu Shu, being curious, decided to approach and see it more closely. However, his body suddenly sensed danger surrounding him, and while running up the stairs, he noticed that the girl from before was returning from the rooftop. On the roof, the delinquents tried to eliminate the principal, but Lu Shu, seeing all the ugly characters around him, realized that this was the perfect chance to earn even more coins. He took a step forward and began reciting the damn Chinese constitution, saying that dictatorship is only allowed by the nation's leader. He also commented that children are permitted to work, only to immediately add that this boy was committing a serious crime, and talking about such things to a delinquent earned him thousands of coins. After all, what he said would not solve anything, and since everyone was distracted by Lu Shu's ridiculous performance, the police ran toward the delinquent and neutralized him. One of the girls approached him and said that she thought it was amazing that he had saved the day, but he told her that he was not interested in girls who looked like boys, farming even more points in the process, and this was exactly everything he needed to earn all the coins he wanted from this event. But when he entered the room, he saw 2 suspicious scientists who were about to force him to take a blood test. With no way to escape, Lu Shu was forced to receive injections from the men. Fortunately, they were Chinese, so their tools were very small, averaging about 2 centimeters. Returning home, he saw that strange man from before, but he completely ignored him, pretending he had never seen him in his life. At home, he saw that his sister had developed a fever because of the cold, so he decided to bet all of his money on a celestial fruit to cure her, instead of simply trying a common medicine. For over 30 rounds, he was trapped losing all of his money from the hack system, until he finally won one of the fruits. After winning 4 more fruits, he gave one to his sister, and her fever disappeared instantly. Thus, it became clear that this anime was designed to encourage people to spend money in gambling houses. During the day, he decided to give her the remaining fruits, saying that consuming them would allow her to awaken like him. However, while he was losing coins, he began accumulating them again, calling the poor girl useless for never doing her homework, and warning that if she continued like this, she would become a girl without a future, just like him. The following morning, the teacher explained that only special students would have classes with a new instructor, and Lu Shu remembered seeing him before. The first student called was the girl who had helped Lu Shu. student by student. The teacher called everyone until Lu Shu was the last to be summoned. Additionally, a new transfer student named Zhang would join the class, so the girl sitting next to Lu Shu offered her seat to the boy because she could no longer tolerate the smell of Lu Shu's boiled eggs every day. During the night, Lu Shu went to attend this secret class, wondering why this suspicious man would be the new teacher. The man revealed in front of all of them that their blood had been tested with a special alloy, and the darker the mixture, the higher the person's ranking. Those with the highest rankings were capable of annihilating entire cities, and rank F students were also approved. Though very weak, after revealing everyone's rankings, he dismissed them. After the class, everyone spoke badly of Lu Shu behind his back, saying he would remain trapped at the lowest rank forever. But Lu Shu did not care at all about the others, and in fact decided to earn coins from this, sending text messages claiming that everyone's mother was rank F. That same night, Lu Shu consumed the last celestial fruit and noticed that now it could be purchased in the item shop. He also saw that the Wheel of Fortune had unlocked a new item, this time some expired tofu. With all the remaining coins, he started spinning all night, and after hours of spending his coins, he finally hit the jackpot and unlocked a new scroll. But before he could read it, the scroll's energy attached itself to Xiaoyu's head, and a dark energy emanated from the sky, allowing her to also see the solar system. While lying in bed, he wondered if there was a connection between his two solar systems, but saw that he needed to spin over 80 expired tofu items to unlock a new item, and he ended up falling asleep wondering if he could turn his coins into money. Then, the following morning, he decided to sell the expired tofu. When one person tried the tofu, they found it delicious, and because of this, the entire city lined up to try some of the expired tofu. His life began to take a new turn, allowing him to sell his smelly foods for more money. And because of the huge line with many people smelling the expired tofu, he was able to farm many more coins for his hack system. In a short time, he summoned the last of the celestial foods, and his solar system was finally complete. The same music he had heard as a baby began emanating around him, and he consumed the star's energy, exploding it into a million different flames. At that moment, a mysterious dagger appeared before his eye, and he realized that the giant star had been his soul all along. So he tried to summon the sword using the power of his soul. However, upon using it, he completely exhausted all of his energy, and he wondered just how powerful he would become once he completed all 7 solar systems. The next day, Professor Lies presented the spiritual stone, which is a powerful item that unlocks hidden abilities through meditation. At home, Lu Shu tried to combine his power with his new sword, but the absolute violence of his celestial nap almost overwhelmed him. Upon leaving the house, he noticed a strange old man practicing his swordsmanship, and the old man tried to show off. But Lu Shu had already completely disappeared. At school, the class leader demonstrated his strength in arm wrestling, defeating everyone. But when Lu Shu appeared, he attempted to challenge him to a duel. However, Lu Shu remained still, more tactful, and to completely destroy the class leader's hopes. Lu Shu told him that he could try using both arms against him. Yet again, Lu Shu completely destroyed him, and in the end, the leader thanked him, saying that because of the arm wrestling against him, he had awakened his powers and become much stronger. During lunch, Lu Shu never tired of irritating people to earn more coins, so he used his special toxic gas ability, making everyone uncomfortable with the smell of expired tofu and gaining many more coins. After that, at home, he sensed something strange again, and he told his sister to stay quiet inside while he went to investigate. It was at that moment that he saw a strange man bowing his head, and the old man from the neighboring house received him as one of the leaders of the Celestial Network. Now, with the world at war, the mysterious leader asked the old man if he would like to become the final member of the Celestial Network, but the old man, named Mr. Lai, rejected his offer. After being rejected, the long-haired man left, promising Mr. Lai that he would bring the medicine he had requested. And as he left, he glanced at Lu Shu before departing. The following morning, Lu Shu became interested in Mr. Lai's swordsmanship skills, but he had not yet begun his training and simply tossed his little sister to Mr. Lai to take care of her. At school, his negative emotion counter kept rising, and he began wondering what the hell his sister was doing. After classes ended, the very beautiful girl who had helped him before looked at him, and when he returned home, he saw that Mr. Lai was indeed helping his sister with her math homework. However, due to the way Lu Shu had educated her, she treated the old man very poorly, and all of Mr. Lai's negative emotions were converting into coins for Lu Shu. He realized he could use his sister to accumulate even more coins since they were somehow connected. And now that Mr. Lai was taking care of his sister for him, he was very eager to teach Lu Shu how to use a sword. Before they began, Lu Shu begged Mr. Lai to teach his sister every day, which ended up irritating both of them quite a lot. When Xiaoyu returned home, Master Lai brought weighted vests, each weighing about 90 kilograms, but Lu Shu threw them into the air like toys, revealing that he was one of the awakened superhumans. Seeing his absolute power, the old man decided to take a different approach and pointed a piece of paper at the wall. Birds flew away, and a magical aura began to envelop the paper. The old man then looked at Lu Shu and said that they would teach him that anything in the world could be cut, and with precise movements, he moved the paper downward, creating a fissure in the ground that cut through steel. This was his first lesson, and he told him that mastering a single skill is better than being mediocre in 10 different abilities. Then the old man ordered him to cut the air with a sword. Lu Shu was determined to master his power and began slicing through the air, but his posture was terrible. Fortunately, Master Lai corrected him, and as he progressed, the old man was eager to see how Lu Shu's skills would develop. Hours passed, and on the 1000th strike, Lu Shu finally felt the wind swirl around him. During the night, they shared a warm drink together, and Master Lai asked Lu Shu what he believed makes a person stronger than others. In response, Lu Shu told him that he thought a person is powerful if they do not follow anyone's rules. But Master Lai revealed that it takes character, experience, and determination to become the strongest. He asked Lu Shu whether he would take on more responsibilities if it meant becoming stronger. However, when thinking about these words, Lu Shu revealed that the only person he truly cared for was his little sister, and he said that he would never assume a greater responsibility, even if it meant becoming stronger. He also said that he would never help anyone else in this world again, especially since no one had helped him when he was younger. For him, simply trying to survive in this world alongside his sister was enough, so he did not dream of becoming a hero for now. After hearing this, Master Lai took his enormous annoyance and promised that he would continue teaching Lu Shu. The following morning, Lu Shu's sister was finally starting to learn her lessons, all because Master Lai's wife had brought her some Pringle. While observing this, Lu Shu felt a mysterious presence emerging behind him. A man from the Celestial Network appeared, and Master Lai prepared for the conversation. It was at that moment that Lu Shu realized his sister might be in danger, so he ran home immediately. When he arrived, he saw the man and pretended that he had forgotten his lunch at home. When Master Lai left, the man was telling him that the ruins were beginning to reappear and that they would cause chaos throughout the nation, and he had come to request Master Lai's help to combat them. But Master Lai refused. Before leaving, the man told him that the last position in the Celestial Network was still open for him, and then he departed. It was at that moment that Xiaoyu returned, and Master Lai said he was excited to see her progress, asking her to repeat the phrase he had taught her. However, she insulted him, saying that he would soon die of food poisoning after drinking so much tea. Before leaving, he handed Lu Shu 2 vials to test his rankings and went away. At night, Lu Shu was excited to see how much he had evolved with the celestial fruit, and he saw that his blood had darkened enough to classify him as rank A, possessing the power to destroy an entire city. However, his vial began to glow with the colors of the galaxies, and he wondered what this could mean. While trying to bury his result outside, Master Lai asked him what his ranking was, but Lu Shu lied, saying his rank was still F, a clear lie that earned him more coins. During the following nights, he continued singing his lullaby, completing more planets in the nebulas, until the blue sea began to envelop him. He tried something that no one should attempt at home and realized that the second solar system provided him with protection against injuries. He wondered how his sister was doing, but within her solar system, black holes were the only things appearing, and the center of the nebula began pulling her inward. When he entered his room, he saw that she was being consumed by the darkness of her celestial nap, until she returned to reality. He said that he had finally broken through the first layer. He asked which abilities she had managed to unlock, so she concentrated her energy and summoned the body of an ant, revealing that the poor insect had died the previous night, but now it obeyed all her commands. He asked the girl if she could summon more souls like that, and they went outside, where she found a group of frozen ants and tried to summon another one. But the moment the soul of the other ant was summoned, the first ant disintegrated, and they realized that her powers were limited to a single summon at a time. He asked her what else she could create, so she generated a flying bird, saying that her summons did not consume any of her energy, and that once summoned by her, her creations could live forever. Luxurious asked if they could use her power to summon an awakened person, and to test something bigger, he took her to a barn, where they chose a poor pig for experiments. After she summoned the pig's soul, he punched the magical pig to see if it would react like a normal pig, but he soon realized it would be better to use his magic sword than to punch the pig. As soon as she left, the pig ran to save its life, but his sword pierced the pig, annihilating it with a single strike. Xiaoyu became upset about this and was about to make her brother her next summon, but he promised to make scrambled eggs for her for a week. However, she wanted scrambled eggs for 2 weeks. While feeding her scrambled eggs, he felt a wave of energy coming from the bridge, so he stood up to leave, but Xiaoyu jumped onto his back, saying she would go along. After leaping between the buildings, they saw 3 men fighting against luxurious instructor, and one of the bandits had awakened. The bandit launched hundreds of fireballs toward the instructor, but he managed to dodge them all with his hand, until the ropes of the bridge caught fire. While he was distracted, the man leapt at him and used his strength to almost crush him, but as he evaded, one of them began manipulating the floor beneath him to throw off his balance. Reinforcements arrived forcefully, approaching and taking care of their allies. However, none of them were able to scratch the leader, so the instructor activated his magical seal to explode the 2 on the spot. Using the smoke to his advantage, the bandit leader hid inside the mist. The instructor's 2 companions ran through the smoke, but as soon as they entered, a massive explosion occurred. As the smoke dissipated, the 3 bandits emerged, and Lu Shu told Xiaoyu to go back while he attempted to discover the bandits' identity. As he was very curious, now the National Guard had completely surrounded the bandits' location, and they began infiltrating their hideout, but the bandits had already escaped into a different alley. The 2 henchmen realized they were about to be captured and said they would be executed, so they began begging their leader to surrender. However, their leader revealed that the Celestial Network would never leave them in peace. After they had eliminated 2 of its soldiers, he told his companions he would create a distraction and try to escape. As the soldiers approached, the leader blew up the door to knock them down, but the others had already surrounded him. It was at that moment that the bandit leader used his 2 accomplices as human shields, fleeing from all who attacked him. As he ran through the alleys, one of the soldiers used his red bodily fluids to create an enchantment, attacking the bandit leader and throwing him against the wall, leaving him with nowhere to escape. At that moment, the soldiers noticed Lu Shu's radiant aura, the gossiping boy above them. He tried to say he was looking for his lost cat around there, but his instructor ordered the soldiers to capture him and began launching several magical talismans in his direction. However, Lu Shu decided to act like the god of Parker, vaulting over his enemies using swords and human bodies as trampoline. Obviously, the bandit was also being hunted, so he threw his companions as a distraction. But the general of the Celestial Network used his swords to slash open the bandit's stomach. Now the bandit could store 3 iPhones inside. At the same time, Lu Shu faced 2 girls simultaneously and used his sheets against them in battle. He dodged all their attacks with ease and counterattacked, even throwing 1 girl against the wall. Lu Shu, a true misogynist, a great honor for all Chinese. When the second girl ran after him, he used the sword sheath to knock her to the other side. Using his superior acrobatics, he performed a backflip to avoid the sword strikes and delivered a lethal blow that rendered his final enemy unconscious. Below him, the bandit leader was still fighting. He was able to dodge all the attacks, but the dual sword wielder pinned him against the wall, almost immobilizing him. However, the man crushed the metal swords with his own hands, grabbed his head, and unleashed dozens of punches to his throat, before dragging him along the wall. At that moment, the instructor launched several of his talismans at the man, but none of them even scratched him. He then threw the unconscious soldier toward Lu Shu and struck the ground, creating a mist that blinded the entire battlefield. The instructor tried to catch Lu Shu off guard, but he leaped to evade the attack. At that moment, several debris began flying toward the instructor, forcing him to use his talismans to illuminate the entire battlefield. Another gas cylinder came toward him, and as he realized the cylinder was heavy and full of gas, it simply exploded in his face, and he was thrown against the wall while burning alive. Fortunately, this kind of damage did not affect him. When the mist dissipated, Lu Shu noticed that all the soldiers had been knocked down and that the bandit was the only one still standing. At that moment, Lu Shu covered his body with all his energy. The bandit prepared to deliver a punch, but Lu Shu managed to hold him with his fists. Then the sword inside him ignited, piercing the bandit, who had the misfortune of messing with the wrong person. After doing this, he returned home, performing his legendary Parker moves. Upon arriving, he removed his cloak of concealment and invisibility and told his sister that he wanted to test her powers once again. When they left the house, Master Li asked what on earth they were planning to do so late at night. The little girl said her brother was taking her to a 5-star restaurant and that he would spend all his life savings to make her happy. Lu Shu asked the old master if he wanted to join, but the old man said he had no money for that and asked them to be careful during the night. Very thoughtful of him. As they approached the location where the battles had taken place, Xiaoyu summoned her bird to get a better view of the entire area. After ensuring there were no enemies nearby, she and Lu Shu returned to the exact spot where the fight occurred, and of course, they noticed that all the bodies had already disappeared. However, as Xiaoyu stepped into the area, she sensed the energy of the men who had died there. Lu Shu told her to use their souls. She absorbed their energies, but she still could not summon them. She did not know if the reason was her own limitations or the souls of the men who had just died. She then asked her brother to wait at least one day. In the end, Lu Shu was pleased that they had made some progress and told his sister that it was now time to return home. But she told him that he still had not taken her to a 5-star restaurant. Lu Shu explained to her that he was just making an excuse for the old man, but the girl did not care about that at the moment. She only wanted to spend every penny he had in his broke pockets at a noodle shop. The little girl began devouring everything with gusto, and Lu Shu told her that he wished he could take her out to eat like this every day. He believed that if she had remained in the orphanage, she could have had a better life. But when she heard these words, she tried to hold back her tears, asking why he would want to send her back there. She began crying, saying she did not care if she lacked a coat or enough food. The only thing that mattered to her was being with him because he was her family. At that moment, he remembered when he had first run away from the orphanage and how she had held his hand, not wanting him to leave her. Yet he had walked away, leaving her alone all that time while struggling to survive without a home. He had started selling eggs to pay rent and studying in the time he had left. Loneliness slowly eroded him until he finally saw Xiaoyu appear before him. At first, he tried to send her back to the orphanage, but she clung to him. Since then, her smile became the light that helped him endure all the difficult days and led her back to his apartment, where she was happy to finally live beside him. Whenever their eggs did not sell and he could not afford food, he would take spoiled harvests he found from other vendors and bring them home for his sister to eat. Even during freezing winters, Xiaoyu tried her best to care for her brother, selling eggs at home even when he was too sick to go out. As long as she could continue living with him, it did not matter what hardships she faced. Over time, they became each other's warmth, surviving all winters together. Remembering everything they had gone through, Luxurious revealed that he wanted to buy a house for them, all because he did not want to worry about constantly paying rent and living on the edge of hunger. He promised his sister that one day he would buy the house they lived in. At that moment, she held his hand, asking if their days would improve. He assured her that they would, affirming it even more strongly, knowing that thanks to the little hack, his life was about to change completely. The next morning, Luxurious returned to selling his smelly tofu, but he was beginning to run out. People had grown accustomed to the bad smell, so he could not earn more coins. One person asked Luxurious if they could buy another tofu, but he told them that they were all sold out. Just by saying that, he earned several coins from everyone. He then realized that he only had to tell these hungry people he was out of stock, and he would become extremely rich. So he began deceiving them, making them think he still had tofu, and then crushing all their useless hopes, claiming that his entire stock was gone. Later, on a certain night, a man discovered all of his wife's life-saving and grabbed everything before leaving. Meanwhile, the clock struck midnight, and Xiaoyu finally achieved her goal. She began knocking on Lu Shu's door and finally showed him the man she had summoned. Lu Shu asked if she was able to control her powers, and she revealed that she could do anything with him, even read his memories to discover the location of the money they had stolen. As she tried to concentrate, she remembered the place where he and his companions had hidden the money and was very excited to go dig it up. However, Lu Shu told her that they would return the money to the police once they found it. Xiaoyu was very sad to hear this and asked if they really had to give it back. After all, if they had all that money, they could finally buy their house, and she wouldn't have to worry about going back to the orphanage. Hearing this, Lu Shu knelt down, promising her that he would never abandon her and that they would even buy their own house ethically, without having to use stolen money. Saying this, he called her ugly and told her to go to sleep so she could become beautiful. She walked away angrily. After this conversation, Lu Shu remembered just how much the little girl wanted to continue living with him. He then grabbed a flyer he had seen about the house, saying that the place they lived in was on sale for 250,000 Chinese coins. The next morning, the fat man who had stolen his wife's life savings appeared in front of everyone at school, and Lu Shu immediately realized that he was a high-level awakened. The man climbed onto the podium and introduced himself as the new school principal. However, Lu Shu felt that something was wrong with him. That night, the new principal introduced himself as Lai, another guy named Lai, and told everyone that they had located a mysterious awakened who had easily destroyed an entire field of soldier. To help the students evolve quickly, they began providing spiritual stones to all students every month. Everything would be organized according to each person's strength level. Level C awakened received 1, Level B received 2, and Level A received 10. The class leader looked at Lu Shu, but panicked when he saw Lu Shu smiling and sending him a text message. In the message, Lu Shu said he had arrived at school early because his mother had woken him up at dawn wanting her milk. After school was dismissed, Lu Shu met Zhang in the alley and asked him if people would buy the spiritual stones on the black market. Zhang told him that selling the stones was illegal, but there were definitely some millionaires interested, willing to pay a lot of money for each one. Lu Shu realized he had found gold and told Zhang he wanted to sell them for the best possible price. Zhang then called someone who might be interested, and within seconds a man accepted the deal, and even asked for Lu Shu's bank account number. Lu Shu was shocked at how easily the sale went through and handed the stones to his friend, saying he trusted him, since after all the time they had been together, they were practically family. With the deal closed, he no longer had to worry about all the days he had spent in the cold working just to have food at home. After buying snacks for her at the convenience store, Lu Shu showed the girl the deed to the house, telling her that this house would finally be theirs. He also gave her a new phone he had bought for her and had already added himself to the contacts. Starting tomorrow, this house would be theirs: the yard, the floor, the walls, the dishes, and even the ants. They would own everything. Hearing this, the girl immediately hugged him, happy because they would finally be together, and asked if he would still need to work every day. He said he would continue selling so they could buy food, but the damn Lu Shu only wanted to annoy people for the sake of his coins. In his room, the celestial map appeared before him once again, and the second nebula was finally completed. At the same time, a dark and threatening aura continued to swirl around his sister. While selling his food, Lu Shu mocked all the people, saying he was thinking of raising the price, and he ended up earning hundreds of points just from their dissatisfaction. Out of nowhere, Principal Li approached and requested a smelly tofu, but quickly realized that Lu Shu's face looked familiar. Lu Shu revealed that he was one of his students. Principal Li then told him that he wanted to receive tofu for free every day, but the vendor next to him shouted at the principal to stop taking advantage of the poor, ugly orphan Lu Shu, because his mother no longer loved him, which is why she abandoned him since he was born. He also said that everyone at school bullied him because he smelled like eggs and smelly tofu. The man told him that Lu Shu works every day just to pay for food at home and studies during all his free time. Hearing his sad story, Principal Li cried and handed Lu Shu some chinacos as an apology. The man who helped him asked who that bastard was, and Lu Shu told him that he was the new principal of his school. After finally dealing with all the paperwork for buying their house, an unknown number called him, telling him to go immediately to the ruin that had just opened. He sent a message to his sister, saying that they had finally bought the house, but that he needed to make a trip that would last a few days. After that, hundreds of military vehicles transported them to the ruined location. At that moment, Lu Shu thought about farming coins, so he began saying that they all smelled like an anime convention, and thus more coins began to accumulate. When they arrived, a boss served meals to everyone, and the class leader went up to Lu Shu, saying he was happy to finally see him eating something decent instead of eating the garbage he scavenged from the orphanage trash. Hearing this, Lu Shu simply sighed. Yaku and Si appeared from behind and disappeared completely before the class leader could look back. While they were having lunch, an overweight man looked for a place to sit, and one of the soldiers gave him his seat to calm him down. However, when he stood up, Lu Shu approached him and told him to get up, but the fat man politely refused. Lu Shu then slapped him, causing him to fall unconscious to the ground. Lu Shu did this because he hates fat people. After that, Zhang appeared and said he was surprised that Lu Shu had managed to put the fat man in his place and even offered him some of his food as a reward. He told Lu Shu that since they were close to the ruins, their hack systems would level up very quickly. That night, Lu Shu wondered how he could enter his celestial map without singing his lullaby, but he soon realized it would be fairer to use all his free time to earn more coin. So, while the class leader was meditating, Lu Shu began breathing heavily on him and continuously interrupting his meditation. Lu Shu started reciting the story of his life to distract the leader's thoughts and kept laughing at him. The points continued to rise all night, and by morning he had earned 47,000 coins just for being an annoying person. He wanted to know how his sister was, but there was no cell data, much less a signal. At lunch, the boss gave more food because Lu Shu had knocked over the person consuming an entire bar. A soldier even offered him his seat, but Lu Shu refused because he wanted to sit on Zhang's lap instead. Zhang asked how he planned to level up, and Lu Shu revealed that he only needed to have an arm wrestling match with the class leader once. That night, he continued tormenting the class leader, recounting many things from his life just to annoy him. After hearing Lu Shu's voice non-stop, the class leader ran to the edge of a cliff, thinking he could finally have peace and meditate. But Lu Shu appeared, and the leader realized there was only one way to escape his suffering, by taking his own soul. The next day, Lu Shu was meditating away from all the students. He entered his celestial map to release the rest of his fruits and even unlocked a new planet. In exchange, a light swirled around him and formed a dark cloak that encapsulated his body, granting him a new invincibility power. While everyone gathered for lunch, the boys tried to let Lu Shu go ahead of them, but the class leader appeared laughing while looking for him. They mocked Lu Shu for still being rank F, but Lu Shu asked if he wanted to fight one more time to see who was stronger. The class leader really wanted to fight, but the instructor said they could not fight, so the only thing they could do was participate in an arm wrestling match. The leader reluctantly agreed. Inside the camp tent, the two boys faced off, and everyone was betting that the class leader would win. But as soon as the round began, Lu Shu smashed the class leader's arm against the table, saying that the class leader's mother was much stronger than him, and that she always put a lot of pressure on him when they were in bed. Saying this, Lu Shu started shouting, saying that he had leveled up again, thanks to the class leader, who is a loser. The instructor, all motivated by the arm wrestling match between the two, asked Lu Shu if he wanted to have an arm wrestling match with him as well. So they started to face off, but Lu Shu instantly defeated him and said that it was all thanks to the class leader's mother, because she always made him train like a madman every night. Just from this little prank of mocking the class leader's mother, Lu Shu earned several coins. After they finished, Lu Shu noticed a fog rising from the ruin, and Zhang revealed that the portal had finally opened. Now, the only way for someone to exit this portal would be by obtaining the Eye of Formatting, and if no one could do it, everyone would remain trapped inside for the rest of their lives. However, something strange happened. Alarms began to sound, and the fog started spreading throughout the camp, consuming everyone who tried to escape. Before he realized it, Lu Shu was sucked into the vortex and fell headfirst. He could barely get up after suffering a serious impact. When he opened his eyes, he saw that he was in the middle of a desert, and an axe started flying toward his head. He dodged, and a skeleton knight approached him, trying to strike, but Lu Shu managed to grab its axe and knock it down, breaking all its bones. After defeating the skeleton, Lu Shu decided to climb onto a giant rock to get a better view of his surroundings. He also wondered where everyone else had gone. Suddenly, an arm emerged from the ground, so he jumped and began fleeing before the other skeletons could grab him. After escaping them, a group of 4 students came running toward him, telling him he needed to run if he wanted to survive. He saw one of his classmates about to be devoured by a zombie, so Lu Shu ran to cut its head off and began slashing all the zombies in his path. But while he was distracted, a zombie leapt onto him, almost biting his neck. Instead of helping, the other students were too scared to intervene, so Lu Shu fought the zombie using sheer strength and soon smashed its skull. As he walked back to them, they begged him to stay and protect them, but he told everyone that he would never help a bunch of losers who had abandoned him. Because of their attitude in leaving him behind, he would help no one else. Saying this, he dropped his axe and told them they were on their own. Whether they lived or died was up to them. At that moment, a girl got upset that they hadn't helped him, because if they had, Lu Shu would now be helping them. Over the next few days, Lu Shu took down a zombie, then used his acrobatics to defeat 5 more in his path with the sword he had obtained. As the darkness approached, he climbed to a higher vantage point to stay on elevated ground. Along the way, he saw the kind officer who had offered him his chair, who, unfortunately, was dead. He continued running as vultures devoured the corpse. The day there lasted only briefly, and night came too quickly. While walking, a flare appeared. He jumped into the air to knock it down and quickly moved toward the person who had fired it. In a ravine, he saw a man holding a flare gun. He knew no student had received such a weapon. His system revealed that the man's name consisted of numbers instead of letters. Lu Shu jumped, wondering if this man was a spy. It turned out that before the fog enveloped everyone, a group of spies had carried their flares, and the man in front of Lu Shu was one of them. However, Lu Shu had angered everyone at the school, memorizing the face of every teacher and student. He knew this guy definitely wasn't one of them, so he was forced to begin his bullying session in exchange for coins. As the night went on, he kept earning points just by staring at the man. The man then tried to introduce himself as Zhang, but Lu Shu said he had never met someone so ugly. Zhang asked if he could see the sword he had obtained, and the two began slowly walking toward each other. But before he could grab it, Lu Shu pulled it and said he would use it to penetrate Zhang's mother later. At that moment, Zhang said that his mother had died last year and tried to flee. Lu Shu apologized and promised to watch over him to make sure he was safe, which irritated Zhang even more. Yes, my friends, Lu Shu had found his new victim to cultivate coin, and he knew there was no way he would let this man escape. They continued running after him, and Zhang was shocked that Lu Shu could keep up. Suddenly, more zombies began emerging from the ground and surrounded them. Zhang saw this as an opportunity to escape from Lu Shu, but he was shocked that Lu Shu was still chasing him. He told Lu Shu to give him his sword so he could protect them. But as they ran to save their lives, Lu Shu thought this was the perfect moment to farm more coins. So when Zhang turned to grab his sword, Lu Shu clutched it and pretended to be scared of getting shocked. When 3 zombies surrounded them, Lu Shu pushed Zhang to the ground and started running. One of the zombies tried to bite Zhang, but he used a pocket knife to fend off his enemies and began running to save himself. When Lu Shu thought he was finally away from him, he saw Zhang rounding the corner, staring straight at him. So Lu Shu started pretending to be defenseless. Then Zhang approached, hiding his weapon, and Lu Shu told him they should find a place to rest for the night. Zhang decided to put the weapon away, and they ran toward the giant hill. After climbing together, Lu Shu wondered who this person really was, but he realized it was the perfect chance to earn even more coins. In front of Zhang, he began pretending to sleep helplessly, all to scare him while trying to strike sneakily. Soon, daybreak came, and Lu Shu managed to earn 30,000 coins from this guy. He began to feel hungry since he hadn't eaten much in the past few days, so he got up and said he would look for something to eat. When Zhang could no longer see him, Lu Shu started eating his stinky tofu and decided to return the way he came. When he saw Zhang lying there searching for him, he decided to test the strength of Zhang's butt. Poor Zhang screamed for his life, but Lu Shu was too hungry to care. He began wondering why he could smell rotten tofu. He thought about how it would be possible to find food there since they hadn't even had time to prepare. To farm even more, Lu Shu started mentioning all the delicious meats that existed, like bacon, lamb, and steak, causing Zhang to unleash all his anger in a single strike. Lu Shu barely dodged, and with the fog surrounding them, Zhang tried to knock him down. This time, Lu Shu's acrobatics weren't enough to avoid a kick to the face. As Zhang spun, he ran to crush him, but Lu Shu grabbed his arm and threw him to the ground. Zhang regained his balance and tried to strike Lu Shu, but he dodged all attacks and headbutted Zhang to make him punch. Zhang realized he was no match for him. When the fog engulfed Lu Shu, Zhang tried to run and knock him down, but Lu Shu's martial arts skills allowed him to take Zhang down. Zhang grabbed his sword and knocked him away, but Lu Shu stepped aside at the last second, completely avoiding it, and invoked his mystical dagger to stab him, winning the fight. Now, he felt sad for ending the life of someone who had spent an entire day with him. But unfortunately, the world was cruel. This wasn't the life he wanted. But if that's how it had to be, he promised to keep moving forward and wished he could see his sister soon. A few days later, Lu Shu came across an apple that had been half-eaten and realized he had finally found a fruit to replace his stinky tofu. He started climbing the tree and grabbed one, but the squirrel became furious. He decided to eat the apple in front of the squirrel, and even steal all its apples. Then a bunch of squirrels began pelting him with stones, and one even left its cave carrying a huge rock to throw at him. Lu Shu decided he would be a threat even to animals. While trying to escape, he realized the fruit had fully restored his energy and quenched his thirst, so he kept running until sunset and reached a river. After drinking some water, he began eating even more fruit. He realized the eye of formation must be in the middle of the ruin. But before he could reach it, a wolf appeared behind him, and a second wolf tried to pounce on him, but he cut it down and couldn't run, turning the corner. However, he saw 30 wolves waiting to fight him. Lu Shu began running to save his life, but at least he was earning hundreds of points every second that passed. When he returned to the forest, the squirrel started throwing stones at him again, so he promised to steal all the fruits when he came back. While he was out of the forest, a wolf jumped and slashed his arm. When he tried to eat a celestial fruit, he realized that his body markings kept appearing, no matter how terrifying it was. He knew he would return alive to his sister, so he ran for hours until nightfall. But the wolves continued chasing him. Eventually, his shoes began to wear out, so he used them to knock down 2 wolves and kept running. Fortunately, the feeling of running without his shoes was even better, and his speed increased greatly, allowing him to run much faster than the wolves. Further ahead, he found some of his classmates gathered together, so he decided to make a grand entrance in front of them. He saw that one of them was carrying his axe, and the same people asked if he could help them. However, Lu Shu said he preferred that all of them die, especially since he had already been abandoned to die before. At that moment, he discovered an infinite coin exploit, which consisted of mocking people who were desperate to survive. He asked them how long it had been since they had eaten, and the girl revealed that it had been 3 days. They were already starting to starve without food or water. She begged him to save her, but he called her greedy and started eating in front of them. The sound of him biting into the apple almost drove one of them insane. At that moment, the greedy girl knelt from hunger. He then showed her his delicious apple. She opened her mouth and closed her eyes, but Lu Shu did not want to share his apples. They realized there were 8 of them and only one Lu Shu. The leader tried to demand food in a threatening way, but Lu Shu began reciting all kinds of meats, causing these starving people to nearly lose consciousness. Lu Shu was actually shocked they had survived so long without eating. He stood up to grab his axe, which frightened them all. After taking the axe, he asked if they wanted it back. When the man said yes, Lu Shu replied that it was a pity. Saying this, he began fleeing from them, leaving the ugly, hungry losers defenseless. At least he left 2 apples for everyone. Another week passed inside the ruin, and Lu Shu wondered if his sister was still okay. But as he uttered those words, he heard the footsteps of a knight. Looking toward the source of the sound, he saw a skeleton knight turning toward him. In an instant, it tried to strike his face, and Lu Shu barely managed to avoid slipping. While struggling to push it away, he heard 2 more horses approaching in the distance. He drew his spear and knocked the skeleton down. The other skeletal soldiers arrived, but Lu Shu began climbing the mountain so they couldn't reach him. They started shooting arrows at him, but he managed to dodge every attack until the skeletons gave up and began to retreat. Without his spear, the skeletal soldier decided to pick up only his sword and continued to retreat. In the distance, a group of soldiers from the Celestial Network had seen the skeletal cavalry. One suggested killing their leader, so the man watched until he realized that one of the skeletons was holding only a sword instead of a spear. He concluded that the one holding the sword was the leader. He decided to shoot and take down the leader, but after successfully hitting, they realized they had shot the wrong skeleton. The knights then started firing arrows at them, and they began to flee. As they left the arena, one of them saw Lu Shu sneaking along the cliff. Before they could act, Lu Shu jumped to steal the spear from one of the knights and climbed back onto the cliff. They began firing arrows again, but he dodged all the shots and left with his new spear. He hid in a tree and waited for the soldiers to leave before jumping. However, he remembered that his weapons would be confiscated as soon as they left the ruins. To ensure all his hard work wasn't wasted, he decided to swap these weapons with the other students. At that moment, he fell into the knight's trap, and they began surrounding him. This was all part of their plan, but Lu Shu stayed firm and enhanced his spear with his mystical energy, throwing it into the sky. After retrieving the weapons, the spear cut down 2 of the knights. Lu Shu then leapt toward the leader to knock him down and threw his axe at another enemy. He grabbed a 3rd spear and narrowly dodged an incoming strike. But when the skeleton nearly hit him, he dodged and laughed at it. One of them tried to shoot an arrow, but Lu Shu threw his spear. While spinning, he grabbed another one. As that skeleton was eliminated, he threw his spear at the skeleton running toward him. The leader tried to cut him with his sword, but Lu Shu managed to defend himself and knocked down a skeleton mounted on a horse. Immediately, he cut the swordsman and leapt toward the last skeleton to crush it to the ground. After defeating them all, he managed to protect all his weapons. Meanwhile, his little sister was gathering data on her horse. It had been some time since he last contacted her. Very annoyed, she opened a box her brother had told her not to open, only to find another box inside. After some time opening boxes, she found a bag of chips, but the note said to wait until he got home so they could eat it together. She smiled and put the package away, but felt sad because he wasn't responding to any of her messages. Meanwhile, Lu Shu was climbing another mountain to ambush more skeletons. When no one appeared, he started meditating and finally ate another celestial fruit. The magical aura transported him back to his solar system, and he was able to unlock another planet. Feeling the power of the fruit, the Celestial Network prepared to ambush a group of 9 skeleton soldiers. Just as they were about to make the surprise attack, a spear appeared from the sky and struck their leader. After that body disappeared, 2 more were launched into the sky, and a 3rd was thrown against a wall. Lu Shu finally made his entrance, and the Celestial Network decided to help him. But Lu Shu eliminated another soldier with his spear and started running toward the others to take them down. With only 2 soldiers remaining, Lu Shu unsheathed his sword and ran toward one of them. When one tried to ambush him from behind, Lu Shu ducked and stabbed the soldier, eliminating him. Everyone began to wonder how powerful he was, and a guy who literally had no eyes asked if he was Lu Shu. His friend told him he should open his eyes instead of asking that question. When everyone asked why he was attacking the skeletons so fiercely without even waiting for help, Lu Shu stopped them, saying that all the weapons were his. After some time, he managed to gather all the spears and swords, protecting all his weapons from the others. One of the leaders of the expedition asked why he was collecting so many weapons if he couldn't use them all. He revealed that the man was wrong and began showing off his weapons, telling everyone they could come and get them for a very good price. For Lu Shu, all his youthful years had been nothing but training for this very moment. He told everyone that defense was worth more than gold in this situation. The man asked if he could buy a sword, but Lu Shu realized that no one had real money there. So he asked the man how much his jade necklace was worth. The man said it was worth a lot, and Lu Shu offered a trade, but the man rejected the deal. A soldier stepped forward and decided to make a deal, offering his rich person's watch in exchange for a sword. Another offered a 7-carat chain, while another offered a very expensive watch. He saw how all of them were injured. If he were a rich person with an easy life, he would have helped them. But being a poor, screwed, miserable, failed man, Lu Shu decided to just profit from all of them. Everyone started lining up, and soon Lu Shu was bathed in gold. 2 people decided to pool their funds and paid a good amount for a sword, but Lu Shu handed them an axe instead, saying the money wasn't enough for a sword. However, he showed them that the axe was actually better than a sword, so the man gladly accepted. When Lu Shu finished negotiating, the group finally entered the center of the ruins. At this point, Lu Shu was the happiest man in the world for being so rich. After walking for hours, they decided to camp and spend the night. Lu Shu noticed that everyone was starving and running out of water. For the first time in his life, he decided not to be a threat and gave the leader a bunch of apples so each person could cut one and eat a small piece. As soon as everyone ate a small slice, they realized that all their energy had been restored, and their hunger and thirst were completely satisfied. At that moment, they began offering even more things in exchange for a single apple. He accepted the offer and realized that he was about to become a millionaire. One of them tried to call Lu Shu evil for hoarding all the food and attempting to sell it, but he replied that it was their fault for being so useless. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew from the ravine, and dozens of ghosts began flying toward them. All the students prepared to attack, but as the ghosts approached, Lu Shu felt his dagger trying to leave his sheath and tried to restrain it, knowing this was not a good time to reveal his secret weapon. As soon as a ghost came near Lu Shu, he felt a terrifying presence emanating from it. Seeing Lu Shu as some sort of demonic being, the ghost fled, and all the other ghosts began escaping the area. That was how Lu Shu realized that his abilities were becoming increasingly powerful as he advanced. Eventually, they reached the center of the ruin, and one of the boys mentioned that his friend, Kingsai, had saved him from 2 skeletons, and that he had fallen in love with her. Lu Shu pretended not to notice her and realized that this was the perfect opportunity to show how wealthy he had become. He began selling his weapons and buying even more jewels. Everyone started offering him millions of dollars. After selling most of them, a man called him to meet with the leaders of the Celestial Network. When he arrived, he made sure to show just how rich he was, reasoning that if Kingsai were only interested in money, he would find out immediately. The leader of the Celestial Network introduced himself and told him to stop selling his spears, since he knew how to use them. 1,000 weapons in the hands of someone who knows how to use them are worth much more than a simple weapon in the hands of a fool, he said. Lu Shu agreed. Then the leader approached the center of the ruin and began activating his magic. From within himself, he drew his sword and sent it into the ruin. After examining the hole, the leader decided they would dive into it. While resting afterward, Lu Shu's system indicated that there were spies with number names in the area, though he had no idea who they might be. Out of nowhere, a tree began to fall, thrown in by Li. However, a squirrel emerged from it and started yelling at him. When the squirrel saw Lu Shu's scowling face, it tried to attack him. After everyone collected the fruits, the poor squirrel was on the verge of a heart attack. But Lu Shu handed it an apple while it cried, and the squirrel became eternally grateful to him. Suddenly, Yong finally appeared and approached Lu Shu, but some people attempted to steal his weapons. Their leader stepped forward and offered to pay a good amount for a spear once they left. However, Lu Shu told him he wouldn't fall for such a trick. When he received coins from a person named Numbers, he realized this individual was a spy. Li then told him to leave. While everyone slept at night, Lu Shu was glad that his sister was still angry with him, though he realized she now completely despised him, and he had no way to explain his situation to her. As he slept, all the spies woke up, ran toward the center of the ruin, and jumped straight down. When the last one tried to jump, something prevented him from falling. Lu Shu told him he wouldn't betray them if they shared the profits 99% for Lu Shu and 1% for him. The spy realized he was screwed and accepted the deal. But as soon as Lu Shu left and the spy tried to jump again, Lu Shu grabbed him and smiled with his ugly face. The spies noticed one of them was missing but decided to keep moving forward anyway. The remaining spy tried to catch Lu Shu off guard and threw a talisman at him. But Lu Shu was already somewhere completely different. He began shouting to wake everyone and announced that a spy was trying to steal the formation's eye. By the time the spy realized his situation, there was no time to react. A mystical tiger appeared, and Li's hand grabbed its face, smashing it against the ruin. Seeing that there were many spies among them, Li told everyone they should enter the ruins immediately instead of resting during the night, or the spies might end up stealing their items. The students began lining up, and the leader found Lu Shu very strange with all those jewels. Later, Li realized he might be a clever man, so he asked Lu Shu if he would like to make a deal. He revealed that hundreds of ruins had begun to open, but since Lu Shu was just a student, he could not enter without permission. For the price of a single gold chain, Li would call him to all the ruins, but Lu Shu called him opportunistic and walked away. When everyone was ready to enter, a woman approached the center and activated a magical spell that began creating stairs along the edge of the hole. As they descended, hundreds of ghosts started running from the center, and Lu Shu tried to keep his dagger well away from them. When they reached the bottom of the pit, Li saw that the bodies of the spies were rigid. Realizing that their spirits must have left their bodies a clever way to avoid the surrounding ghosts. After walking for hours, they finally arrived at the entrance to the core of the ruins, but as soon as they entered, a gate closed behind them. From above, the crystals began to glow, and hundreds of ghosts appeared. Li then invoked all his magical power to blast them with a single strike. However, there were still many ghosts remaining. The soldiers began trying to take them down together. When a ghost tried to attack Lu Shu, the creature became too afraid to approach, leaving him wondering why the creatures feared him so much. He began attacking all the ghosts, absorbing their bodies with his sword. However, one of the ghostly spies eliminated a longtime friend of Li's, prompting him to roar and release his tiger powers to destroy them all. While Lu Shu wondered where the others had gone, his dark dagger began to glow, and he struck down a ghost before it could reach him. At that moment, some people asked how he knew where the ghost would strike, but he said it was pure coincidence and luck. Then he demonstrated his luck by telling Lee to attack a random spot, and Lee's strike hit a ghost, shocking everyone. Lee asked him to indicate another location, but after a while, Lee's strikes stopped hitting the ghosts, and everyone truly believed that Lu Shu was just a boy full of luck. From the central gate, an army of zombies appeared. Lee told them he would handle their leader and ran toward them. Then the two sides began colliding. Lee performed an attack that made the ground tremble beneath them and eliminated his horse before landing. The remaining soldiers drew their weapons and charged forward to fight the zombies. Meanwhile, Lu Shu began launching soldiers, achieving a triple kill with a single spear. One of the zombies almost struck his face, but King Sai came to save him, using her agility to dodge all the attacks. As she cut down the enemies, he thought she was amazing and hurried to eliminate a zombie. However, the zombie began fleeing to save its life, and he realized that his dagger was terrifying all of them. Their army was advancing slowly, and while Lu Shu thought about helping his allies survive, he noticed he was inside a giant castle. He decided to sneak in and look for something to sell. At the entrance, his dagger began radiating light, and a mysterious aura watched him. When he entered a certain room, a ghost was preparing to ambush him. Lu Shu dodged and used his sharp sword to pierce the ghost's body, eliminating it quickly. Afterwards, he wondered how many spies remained. At the same time, Lee was fighting for his life. The skeleton was giving everything to defeat him, but Lee dodged its blows and advanced further. The skeleton was also skilled at dodging, but Lee continued pursuing it using martial arts tactics. They pushed each other back and forth in that intense, enjoyable rhythm. The skeleton called him an annoying fly, and they continued clashing, moving side to side. Meanwhile, Lu Shu finally approached the central castle room door and opened it. Upon entering, he saw something moving, but as he stepped back, the eyes of two statues lit up and began advancing toward him. Immediately, his dagger flew out, halting the guards' advance, forcing them to retreat to their positions. As he sheathed his spears, he realized this was the perfect opportunity to make more money. He looked at the face of a guard and tested the weapon. The poor royal guard became irritated but ultimately handed over the weapon, and Lu Shu continued earning coins from them. He went from guard to guard, taking their weapons. Meanwhile, the soldiers were still fighting for their lives. Lai tried to grab his enemy's spear so they could escape the cursed place, but the knight refused to release his spear, which made Lai believe that the spear really was the eye of the formation. Because of this, they began putting all their energy into it, exalting him. None of the soldiers succeeded, and the situation was so dire that the leader was nearly eliminated. But Koan unsheathed her sword and eliminated 5 skeletons within half a second. Nearby, the skeleton leader focused his energy on 3 dragons that began charging toward Lai. The guy barely dodged and was caught by an explosion that, instead of killing him, trapped him even more. To make matters worse, another dragon was coming from behind to bite and kill him. Just when everyone thought he was about to die, Lai cast his final spell, reached out, ran toward the knight, grabbed his spear, and kicked him. Meanwhile, Koen continued eliminating the remaining skeletons, then climbed to a high spot to look for Lu Shu, but he had completely disappeared. As Lu Shu delved deeper into the room, the skeleton leader sensed a presence he was supposed to be guarding. He threw down his spear and ran toward Lu Shu. At that moment, Lai realized that the eye of the formation was something else and began chasing the knight. When the skeleton leader returned, he saw that none of his guards had their weapons, and by then Lai had already reached him. However, the skeleton ordered the knights to take Lai's life and ran toward Lu Shu's location. At that exact moment, Lu Shu was picking up a strange item, when suddenly he noticed a skeletal soldier behind him. The enemy began running toward him, and Lu Shu accidentally dropped the mysterious item from the chest. While it was still in the air, he managed to catch it. At that moment, colors began to fade from the world, including the enemies and the people trapped there. The world started to collapse, and the ground began breaking apart, swallowing the humans. Gravity ceased to exist, and everyone's energy was being drawn into Lu Shu's item. Suddenly, the spears formed a circle around him before being swallowed. When the ground beneath him disappeared, the squirrel tried to cling to him before vanishing. After that, everyone finally returned to their world. We then see Zhang beginning to run, looking for Lu Shu. At the same time, King Sai started running, searching for any trace of him, while Lai was sneaking out of the camp. Later, we see all the soldiers handing over their items, until Zhang appeared running, shouting that he couldn't find Lu Shu. The instructor, moved, said that Lu Shu had done an excellent job, sacrificing himself to save the others. Some people were happy, saying he deserved to die after deceiving them, but the class leader was saddened and told the instructor that they could at least search for his body. However, Lu Shu appeared in the blink of an eye and went to the class leader, saying he had only stayed alive to continue mining his mother during the night. He handed his remaining weapons to an instructor, and the weight of them broke the table. While walking home, his sister's negative emotions began to rise. He saw saw a bag of potato chips and noticed she was waiting for him in the tree. He tried to reach out for a hug, but she jumped and stomped on his face. She began inspecting his body, and when she finished, she was happy to see he wasn't scratched and hugged him while crying. He apologized for making her wait so long, but she began running home, and he followed her. When they returned to the street, he told her he had become rich. He showed her the expensive watches he had acquired, but she no longer cared about money. The only thing that mattered to her was him. He promised to take her to a good restaurant tomorrow to make her happy. They then promised each other that they would never part. On the way home, old 6C from the sword school was happy to see him return safe and sound. He told him to rest before continuing their practice, and Lu Shu thanked him for taking care of his sister while he was away. When they were alone at home, Lu Shu asked her to summon the body so she could invoke it. After she did, he summoned 2 magical pearls from his body. She asked what the stones were, and he explained that one was made from the ghosts he absorbed, and the other from humans who had turned into ghosts. She wondered what would happen if she started her invocation, so Lu Shu inserted one of the balls into the ghost's mouth. Immediately, the strength of its energy body surged dramatically. Xiaoyu then asked when he would stop intimidating her summons. He told her he had one last gift and took 2 apples from inside him. When she ate the apples, she obviously found them delicious. And at that moment, the damn squirrel appeared again and began scolding her for eating his little apple. However, Xiaoyu grabbed him and said he was the cutest thing she had ever seen, and she started playing with his face. Lu Shu told her to give the little creature a name, so she decided to call him Chubby. But Lu Shu told her that wasn't a proper Chinese enemy name, so she decided to name the squirrel Xiao and gave him a potato chip. After the squirrel ate it, the girl had a brilliant idea. She put him inside a bag of potato chips and told him she would only feed him if he obeyed her. Lu Shu was shocked at the effectiveness of her manipulation. Once everything was settled, he looked at the ruin and tried to transport his consciousness into it. Before his eyes, he was floating above the entire city, but something still seemed wrong. So, when he brought his consciousness back, he decided to enter the lower part of the eye of the formation and saw all the weapons that had been consumed inside. Before his eyes, a giant door blocked his path, and when he tried to open it, it barely moved. All he managed was to peek inside, and he saw the castle where he had been trapped before with everyone. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu started trying to wake him, and when he tried to explain what he was doing, she hugged him, saying she was afraid he would leave her again. He told her he wouldn't be gone for long and promised to take her out for dinner. He also promised to buy a nice TV with all the gold chains he had collected. Now, the winter snow was finally beginning to melt, and fireworks lit up the sky. Above all, Lu Shu was happy to share this moment with Xiaoyu, because she was the only thing that mattered in his entire world. The second season begins with Irene Yeager from the Celestial Network facing multiple men at the same time. But this battle is just child's play for him, and one by one, he eliminates his enemies without breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, Lu Shu was continuing with his normal life, selling his stinky tofu, which was also spoiled tofu. Out of nowhere, an overweight bald man appeared, admiring the awful smell of the tofu, and Lu Shu told him that his tofu was like first love. It didn't seem like it would work, but in the end, it turned out to be amazing. The fat man had never experienced love before, so he decided to order 3 portions of stinky tofu. Lu Shu, however, said there was only 1 portion left, gaining some points from the man's desperation. The man asked for that last tofu, but Lu Shu said it wasn't for sale, which made the man even more desperate. He begged Lu Shu to sell it to him, hoping to experience first love. The fat man said he would pay whatever Lu Shu wanted. Poor man, he didn't realize that Lu Shu just wanted to mess with him to farm even more points. That night, Lu Shu went to the school for a parent meeting for students in the special cultivation class. He entered confidently in his suit, and while some people were commenting about a student named Lu Shu having killed over 10 zombies alone, Lu Shu himself appeared, saying that Lu Shu had killed more than 50 powerful zombies all at once by himself. The man, who seemed to have the situation under control, was uncomfortable and extended his hand to Lu Shu, asking which student he was the father of, but Lu Shu didn't answer. When the instructor appeared, he asked why Lu Shu had come alone to the meeting and where his parents were. Lu Shu just smiled, irritating everyone. Afterward, he took the instructor aside and explained that he was an orphan, which is why he came to the meeting himself. The instructor accepted this and asked Lu Shu and everyone to sit in their places. The instructor then commented on the incident, where all the students had faced great difficulties, and some had even died. He said he didn't intend to avoid responsibility, but parents should be aware of the dangers their children face when participating in special classes. After he said this, an old man stood up, saying he couldn't accept that the children would face such danger again. Some people agreed with him. In response, the instructor said that everyone was free to withdraw. However, those who withdrew would have their powers sealed and could never use them again. Lu Shu then raised his hand and asked what would happen to those who chose to stay. The instructor revealed that those who stayed would be sent to train with the Celestial Network and would also receive a great salary. Lu Shu found this very interesting because in addition to the profit from selling stinky tofu, it would be great to have another steady source of income. Everyone asked for some time to think about it, but Lu Shu stood up and said he wouldn't give up, unlike those parents who don't support their children. The instructor then said that those who stayed could, in the future, become the ones to save the nation. One by one, the parents began allowing their children to stay and advance to the Celestial Network. After the meeting, back at home, Lu Shu looked at his sister's student enrollment form. He left that matter for later and decided to gamble with his hack system. He had many points accumulated from causing chaos in the city, but no matter how many points he spent, he could only obtain dishes of food. Tired, he lay down on the bed and tried his luck with his feet, this time obtaining an unknown fruit, which he consumed without even knowing what it was for. The fruit allowed him to absorb a lot of surrounding energy, making him feel comfortable, as if he were enveloped by clouds. However, when he woke up, he realized that nothing had changed in his body and wondered what the fruit was actually for. To find out, he decided to try obtaining more fruits of the same kind. After that, he decided to go out for a bit, and when he passed his sister, he teased her about her weight. He also asked what she wanted to eat, and she ended up naming exactly the dishes of life he had received in his bets. He left the house and met with Mr. Lai, who thought Lu Shu would take too long to return to training with him, because normally after exploring the dungeon, people take 2 days off. Lu Shu told Mr. Lai that he survived thanks to his training and took off his coat to train more, revealing his well-built body. Master Lai asked if he planned to join the Celestial Network. After Lu Shu confirmed, the old man asked his reasons, and Lu Shu said he didn't know yet. The old man explained that the Celestial Network protects humanity's peace, and Lu Shu said that was too big a goal for him, he just wanted to live peacefully with his sister. The old man then stopped the pointless conversation and began teaching Lu Shu a technique he should cultivate until he could open the door to an ice mountain that would form a legendary sword for him. Watching the old man use this technique, he realized that the previous fruit increased his cultivation level in the stability of the ice mountain. Lu Shu asked the old man how to summon the power of the ice mountain. The old man said it would be very difficult but gave him a tip. Imagine the mountain and swing the sword while saying for the path to open. Lu Shu did exactly that and managed to cut a falling leaf from a distance. However, when the old man saw this, he went inside his house and started shouting, giving Lu Shu thousands of negative points, leaving Lu Shu wondering if the old man had Alzheimer's or something. The next day, Lu Shu received his best classmate, Zhang, at his home. Upon entering Lu Shu's house, Zhang noticed how clean it was and realized that everyone who despised him for selling stinky tofu was wrong, because the house didn't smell. Zhang commented that the house was far away and peaceful, and Lu Shu said he liked simplicity and tranquility. Zhang then asked why Lu Shu insisted on getting on bad terms with everyone and what he would do if he ever needed help. Lu Shu replied that he could survive on his own. Zhang said that now that Lu Shu was going to join the Celestial Network, he would need to get along with others. Lu Shu admitted that he actually needed Zhang's help. His friend asked what he needed, and Lu Shu revealed he required 3 drops of Zhang's blood. Zhang agreed without even asking what the blood would be used for, as he already imagined Lu Shu wouldn't tell him, and Lu Shu confirmed that. Zhang extended his hand, and the blood collection was completed. Later, as they were leaving the house, the old man and his wife saw them. The old woman complimented Lu Shu's girlfriend, saying she was a beautiful girl. In response, Lu Shu said she was a man, nearly giving the elderly couple a heart attack. Returning home, Lu Shu encountered his sister, who had just woken up. He told her he had good news. From now on, she could attend school. However, she said that was terrible news and became very annoyed. Lu Shu then revealed that they now had money to get her documents. Because of this, she could live a normal life and attend school like any ordinary person. To convince her, he promised to make the meals she requested, and she agreed, as long as he fed her directly. With a mischievous smile, Lu Shu began summoning the dishes she wanted in his hands. This greatly irritated Xiaoyu, and she screamed at him. She asked why he hadn't said he had awakened the Supreme Leader ability. She was very upset about it, and Lu Shu told her to eat quickly. However, she heard her squirrel playing with the street rats and ran off to scold him, saying he was a beautiful and cute squirrel and shouldn't associate with dirty rats. After that, he took his sister to the principal and handed old Liao an envelope containing Zhang's blood, which should ensure that his sister would be placed in a special class, just like him. Then he returned home and resumed training. Old Liao, upon discovering that he had enrolled little Xiaoyu in the academy, was a bit upset, saying he intended to teach her himself. Lu Shu quickly reassured him that even attending school, she would continue to rely on his help. At that moment, Lu Shu pretended to be worried that she wouldn't be admitted, but old Liao told him to stop lying. He revealed that he knew the potential of Lu Shu and his sister, and according to his old man deduction, he discovered that Lu Shu intended to conceal his sister's potential using a fake blood test. He reached this conclusion because, even as Lu Shu's neighbor for years, he had never heard him invite a friend home. Then, the old man brought some alarming news to Lu Shu. The Celestial Network has a blood database, and he would be discovered if he didn't replace that blood tube urgently. Thinking quickly, Lu Shu prepared a rank B classified blood tube and successfully made the swap. Lu Shu then woke his sister, and once she got up, she immediately asked if there was breakfast. But when she saw that her brother had woken up at 4 am, she got annoyed and threw her phone at him. He told her he needed her power to solve a small problem. They went to a dark alley, where Xiaoyu summoned the spirit of her human Pokemon, which was laughing non-stop. After Lu Shu forced it to consume the pill from the previous season, he told his sister to make it enter the principal's office and swap the Tangrini's samples. She set the spirit into action, and Lu Shu used a rare item to follow it from above. As they approached the academy, they realized it was heavily guarded at night. But that wasn't a problem for Xiaoyu. She perfectly controlled the spirit, passing by guards, security cameras, and other obstacles unnoticed. She entered the principal's office and swapped the blood tube that was on the desk. However, during the escape, a guard saw the spirit. When he was about to report it, he was knocked out delicately, but he still managed to alert everyone before losing consciousness. The little girl pulled the spirit back into the principal's office and hid it behind the desk. The guards pursued it, and she tried to use force to escape, but the guards began shooting at the spirit from all directions, and eventually, someone managed to pierce the spirit's body with a powerful bullet. Fortunately, Xiaoyu remained unharmed, and the spirit under her control stayed intact. Even though it had been pierced in the chest, she managed to make the spirit flee. That day, several Celestial Network men investigated the principal's office to find out what the intruder wanted. The principal asked them to check the fingerprints on the blood vials, saying it wouldn't hurt to take a look. Afterward, Lu Shu went to Old Lai and asked for his help to swap the vials, saying he couldn't do it himself. Uncle Lai promised to help, impressed by Lu Shu's honesty in admitting his and his sister's strength. Upon returning home, Uncle Lai asked his wife how the school invasion went, and she reported that the spirit had been shot but didn't die. The old man believed it wasn't the two siblings who tried to invade the school, as they had no injuries. However, he still suspected Lu Shu was hiding some power. Meanwhile, the principal and his Celestial Network colleagues were reviewing the intruder's recordings. The principal became very angry seeing that the intruder wouldn't stop laughing. Shortly after, the fingerprint results on the blood vials arrived, along with the principal's own fingerprints. The next day, Lu Shu and Xiaoyu were having lunch at a street restaurant, talking about her going to school. Xiaoyu wasn't very excited about it and said that if it weren't for Grandpa, they could have been in big trouble with the whole blood vial situation. Lu Shu, concerned about his sister, looked at the squirrel and came up with a mischievous idea. He began tempting the squirrel's hungry heart with an apple. He asked the squirrel if his friendship with the neighborhood rats was trustworthy. Soon after, he asked the squirrel if it could train the rats to spy on the neighborhood, and the squirrel replied that they were too stupid. But Lu Shu didn't understand anything, and Xiaoyu translated it for him. Lu Shu then gave a cultivation fruit to the squirrel, and after eating it, the animal felt much stronger. The siblings clapped for him, but the squirrel, feeling powerful, tried to attack them. However, he was still too weak compared to them, which made him cry while Xiaoyu pinched his cheeks. Lu Shu thought quickly and squeezed a level 10 apple into a bucket of water, intending to share the juice with the street rats to see if they could become a little smarter. The squirrel, seeing this, began to complain, saying that he shouldn't waste such a fruit, but Lu Shu didn't understand what he said, and Xiaoyu translated. Lu Shu then calmed the squirrel, telling him there were more fruits like that. Looking outside, Lu Shu saw the sewer rats, and fearing a new plague might start, he asked the squirrel to control them to prevent this. The squirrel didn't seem to have any problem with the task. After that, each rat was fed by the squirrel, and they truly became smarter after drinking the cultivation fruit juice. This allowed Lu Shu to ensure that many animals would be observing the area around them. After creating the rat army, Lu Shu felt annoyed that he still couldn't understand what the squirrel said, just like his sister, who had already awakened the ability to communicate with animals. So he held the squirrel and said he would teach it to read and write. He placed the squirrel in front of a tablet and instructed that, from that day on, it must do exercises on a specific app every day. Sometime later, late at night, Lu Shu was still awake, organizing his sister's backpack. His sister, all disheveled, came to ask him to go to sleep. Seeing that his sister was concerned about him, Lu Shu laughed and remembered all the difficult moments they had gone through together. The next day, Xiaoyu finally went to school, but first, she complained about her backpack. Lu Shu, however, focused on what was more important, telling his sister to hide her power and not hit anyone. However, he said she could feel free to bully everyone else. Sometime later, Xiaoyu entered the classroom. With a look of pure disgust, the boys were delighted that the school had finally received a beautiful girl. When it was time to introduce herself, Xiaoyu simply said her name, causing mild annoyance among everyone. Meanwhile, Lu Shu was just enjoying the negative emotions his sister caused and was happy with his new coin farming. Besides Lu Shu, almost no one in the special class shirked their duties. While Lu Shu greeted Zhang, the instructor shook his hand and said that, thanks to his accomplishments, he would be promoted to lieutenant. Hearing this, Lu Shu thought about the higher salary he would now receive, until suddenly the instructor hugged him and said that from now on they would be colleagues, asking Lu Shu to guide him whenever necessary, as they were now equals. Lu Shu was shocked because no one had ever handled a relationship so smoothly. The instructor continued shaking hands with all the students until the principal arrived to speak. He first forgot his speech but quickly found it in his underwear, and then he began to truly welcome everyone to the Grand Celestial Network, a place where the strongest in the country were gathered. However, even though they were the strongest, there had been cases of novices dying, and some veterans had also lost their lives. He said their path would be full of death, and that their duty was to advance no matter what. He then made everyone swear with raised arms that they would be members of the Celestial Network and that they would not fear death, and everyone did so. The principal said that their Celestial Network belongings would be delivered soon, and before releasing everyone, he asked them to remember the oath they made that day. As the principal left, several students were crying out of fear of dying. Lu Shu also felt a bit uncomfortable with the oath until he suddenly noticed the negative emotions his sister was creating. A teacher then called for Lu Shu, asking him to control his sister, who on her first day of class was already assaulting her classmates. On the other side of the screen, Xiaoyu was being severely reprimanded until Lu Shu arrived, saying he was her father. They then began complaining endlessly, and he asked to see what she had done. The security cameras showed that several boys had jumped on her until suddenly, all of them were thrown away, and one had his face injured, losing several teeth. Lu Shu did his best to apologize and said he would pay for the victim's medical treatment, while Xiaoyu watched everything from outside, feeling very unhappy with the situation. As they were leaving, Xiao tried to hold Lu Shu's hand, but she didn't have the courage and pulled back, and when she finally had the courage to do it, Lu Shu didn't let her hold his hand and quicken his pace. He was giving the girl a true silent treatment, and then she began to cry, begging him not to send her back to the orphanage. She knew she was wrong and apologized for what she did, but he simply climbed onto the roof of their house and asked Xiao to climb up as well. He asked his sister if she knew where she had gone wrong. She said her mistake was leaving the girl's squirrel alone. He told her that in this world, people need to be strong, and that she was a very strong girl. However, that strength must be used wisely, knowing the right moment to act. Lu Shu acted like a true father, revealing to the girl that with the strength they have, they could kill someone with a single punch, but she cannot follow that path. And when she punches someone, she must at least avoid breaking bones or teeth. He approached and told his sister that not only she, but he also got involved in problematic situations. His sister asked what had happened for him to be acting so serious. He asked if they should use their powers to fight for the good of others, and Xiao gave him a completely new perspective on life, revealing that if she ever saw Old Lai and his wife in danger, she would do everything she could to save them. Not only him, but other people too. Lu Shu said he was talking about people they didn't know, saying he felt a sense of comfort when they shouted, telling him to sacrifice his life for the sake of strangers. He had never cared about his sister before, but after making that oath, he felt a bit of the weight of responsibility. Even so, deep down, he felt that he should protect people. Xiao laughed at him and asked if he wanted to be a hero. Lu Shu also laughed and said they were just two lucky idiots, and being a hero was far too grand for them. He actually preferred to live a comfortable life alongside her. She agreed, and then said she found it very beautiful how he defended her at school. He said, of course, he would use his methods to resolve that matter. However, if the teachers believed they could intimidate them because of that, they were very wrong, because neither he nor she would give up on achieving their dreams. Lu Shu also said that only he could regret. Xiao then asked what she should do if someone tried to hit her. He said she should hit them back. Then she asked what she should do if someone tried to kill her. Lu Shu stood up, and with a serious look, said she must kill the person. She laughed and asked what they would do if the entire world wished them dead. Lu Shu then pointed his finger upward and said that they would have to kill the entire world. After that, we see an old man training a boy, but the boy is so bad that the old man estimated it would take about 20 years for him to release any power. The boy began to cry, and the old man comforted him, telling him not to give up. The boy was doing the same training as Lu Shu, swinging his sword and shouting, "Open." The boy performed over 20,000 strikes, and still nothing happened. Then we discover that the failed boy was Old Lai, who today is strong and feared by everyone. And this same old man continued to be amazed by Lu Shu's ability. What took him 2 years to achieve, Lu Shu accomplished in just 1 week. Outside, Lu Shu was shouting during the night. When the old man went to speak to him, Lu Shu revealed that he felt his power growing just now. That was why he was so excited. The old man felt jealous of Lu Shu's ability, and while practicing, Lu Shu felt a strong need to go to the bathroom. According to the old man, performing this training required accumulating clouds, which was also an analogy for feeling the urge to use the restroom. In the bathroom, he began singing to relax. Xiaoyu heard him through the door and asked if he was sick. He cleaned himself up and left the bathroom, lying to her, saying he was just humming while browsing a travel website. This greatly cheered her up, and they spent the entire night planning a holiday trip, which would be done by bus, as Lu Shu sometimes acted as if he were poor. The next day, the old man taught Lu Shu another technique to train. While practicing, he was in the sky, surrounded by dense clouds, and controlling these clouds with the movement of his sword was quite complicated. The old man commented that mastering clouds could be frustrating, and that there were people who didn't sleep for days trying to control them. In response, Lu Shu said it was fun, and he felt excited as he began to master a new technique. The old man was shocked by this, as in his time he had nearly given up multiple times. He then closed his eyes to see the clouds that Lu Shu was mastering, and in doing so, he realized that this boy was on a completely different level. Lu Shu then made a movement that emitted a sound traveling across the entire city. This was what his former master had called the sound of martial arts. However, even his master didn't know what kind of sound it was, as he had never seen anyone reach that level. Lu Shu looked at old Li and noticed his discomfort growing. After all, Lu Shu was a genius. He asked the old man what was behind the clouds he was trying to cut. The old man told him the same thing his master had said long ago. Behind the clouds, there was a great ocean. After that, Lu Shu informed the old man that he was going on a trip with Xiaoyu. The old man said that traveling was excellent, as it increased the depth of one's life. The next day, Lu Shu departed with his sister, and at the terminal, he felt uncomfortable because his sister had forced him to buy a giant pink suitcase. Everyone stared at his luggage, and Lu Shu feared being mistaken for an effeminate man. He passed his suitcase through inspection, and a guard asked if there was a live animal inside. Lu Shu grabbed the squirrel and said it was a plush toy, but the squirrel blew his disguise by looking at a snack someone was eating. Very irritated, Lu Shu said he would intensify the squirrel's training and then sent it off alone, telling it to meet them later. The squirrel completed its mission perfectly and received a snack from Xiaoyu. Their train arrived, and they went to their seats, which were actually beds. However, several people were occupying them. Lu Shu began poking a boy, saying that the boy's mother was asking him to eat her backside. The boy got angry and stood up against Lu Shu. However, a girl held him back and said he was a member of the special class and therefore should not intimidate ordinary people. Lu Shu laughed and commented on the special class, prompting the boy to ask if he was also a member. Lu Shu replied that he was a mechanic. Everyone laughed and asked what he repaired, and Lu Shu said he fixed ugly people like them, using fists. The boy considered attacking Lu Shu but held back because the car inspection was approaching. Finally, Lu Shu lay down on his bed with his sister. During the night, he trained a little. However, he ended up breaking a train window, but didn't run away and decided to pay for what he destroyed. The next morning, he woke Xiaoyu up, promising to get her a legendary meal and making her brush her teeth before the bathroom line grew too long. After brushing, she asked for food, and Lu Shu began preparing a legendary instant noodle. Suddenly, stomach pain from his training hit hard, so he walked slowly, carrying it to Xiaoyu. She teased him, as he had been breaking toilets every night recently. As Xiaoyu began eating, Lu Shu noticed the people from earlier talking about spirit stones. He opened his mouth and said they were poor and idiotic. The boy from before got down from his bed, asking who he thought he was, and Lu Shu revealed his position as a lieutenant of the Celestial Network, even proving it. Everyone was shocked, and Lu Shu told them not to embarrass themselves by trying to buy a celestial stone with the little money they had. Lu Shu showed a stone grinder, saying it cost about 120,000 Chinese coins, making everyone think he was rich. After that, Lu Shu left the station and revealed his plan to Xiaoyu, to find this black market for stones and earn a lot of money. But his sister didn't care and asked what they would eat. Lu Shu said that if his plan succeeded, she could have a restaurant all for herself. They began investigating the group from the train, even following them. Lu Shu noticed a car radiating energy, so he started knocking on the window multiple times, asking different questions. Since the man didn't attack him after being bothered, he concluded that the man inside was from the Celestial Network. To teach Xiaoyu his legendary investigation methods, Lu Shu asked her to do the same thing he did with the driver of that vehicle. But the driver put up a sign saying he didn't know the time, had no cell phone, and no watch. Xiaoyu removed the sign and simply told him the time. The man, although irritated, thanked the girl and, observing her energy, concluded that little Xiaoyu was just an ordinary civilian. Before going to the black market, Lu Shu asked his sister to protect herself at all costs, and in case of danger, she should come to him. Lu Shu then went alone to the black market and discovered that it was actually a market of counterfeit goods. He observed the newcomers trying to figure out if something was genuine so they could buy it. Lu Shu thought it was all ridiculous. He decided to leave, but on the way, a bald man tried to sell some items, and he refused, asking if the old man was the king of pirates because he only sold pirated goods. The old man then asked if he was an advanced level cultivator, and Lu Shu replied that he only cultivates single others. The old man whispered to Lu Shu that he had cultivation stones for sale. But first, he asked Lu Shu to prove his power. Lu Shu did so by blowing up one of the old man's counterfeit items. Inside, a very strong boy delivered spiritual spikes, and the old man tried to explain that he didn't sell stones, but rather a chance for evolution in life. Lu Shu, like another skilled negotiator, seriously asked the old man the price, and the old man gave an absurd value, shocking Lu Shu, as he could easily sell his stones for that amount. Lu Shu then told the old man that the price was too low, so the old man raised it to satisfy him. Lu Shu then asked the old man to buy his stone at that price, and in the end, he managed to sell his stone for 10 times more than he had sold it before. The old man asked Lu Shu if it was okay to keep selling his future like this, and Lu Shu showed him his infinite stock of stones. When Lu Shu left, the old man asked his grandson, the strong boy who delivered the stones, if he could also blow up an item like the boy before did. The boy revealed that even being the strongest in his class, he couldn't do it, meaning the previous boy must be on a completely different level, still walking through the black market. Lu Shu encountered a man with very noticeable energy. He irritated him, and then evaluated the situation. Realizing the man must have good items, he asked him to show his special items. However, the man said he only traded for spiritual stones. Lu Shu said spiritual stones were of no use to him, and the man, shocked, invited him to follow. They went to an alley where the man showed a powerful pumpkin, or gourd, as you like, but in the anime, it's called a pumpkin, so we'll call it that. The man said it was a spiritual inheritance passed down, with the power to absorb the user's spiritual energy. Lu Shu thought it was useless, but the man tried to demonstrate that the pumpkin really worked. Lu Shu tested it, and it indeed worked, but he pretended it didn't because he had so much energy and decided to leave. The man, wanting to get a good spiritual stone, offered a discount, saying he would trade the item for 4 stones. Lu Shu thought for a moment about what uses the item might have and decided to make the trade. The man took the stones and ran off, saying no return. On the way back, some rookie bystanders saw Lu Shu, but he told them that if they told anyone they saw him there, he would devour all their stones. Sometime later, Lu Shu returned to his sister, who was very angry that he had used one of her shirts as a disguise. He remained calm, promising to take her to eat some delicious lamb. Suddenly, those bystanders passed by, and since Lu Shu knew the name of the most annoying one, he decided to test if this tool could capture a human. He said the bystander's name, and the tool only got his attention. Testing again, it only caused him terrible pain on touch. Lu Shu realized the tool worked, and concluded it was a low-quality item, which was why the seller ran away after the trade. The next day, he went to the lamb restaurant with his younger sister. He annoyed the cook into making a generously filled plate for his sister. After finishing, Lu Shu teased the squirrel for still not knowing how to read and write. He then gave the squirrel another cultivation fruit. After eating it, the squirrel evolved further, even gaining a mohawk. When it was time to board the bus for their sightseeing tour, the previous seller got on the same bus, and Lu Shu noticed he was holding a compass pointing forward. Suddenly, the rookie bystander also got on the bus, feeling uncomfortable with Lu Shu's presence. During the tour, they heard various stories about a princess and her mirror. At the location, Lu Shu and his sister enjoyed the moment a little, until suddenly, Lu Shu felt a familiar energy, and he noticed the man who was breathing fire in the first episode riding past on a motorcycle. He realized that the man had not been caught by the celestial network and had grown stronger. The man went to the relic vendor, and Lu Shu observed everything closely. Inside a secluded shack, the two agreed to infiltrate the next ruin and obtain items to sell on the black market. The blonde man asked if the compass was reliable, and the vendor confirmed that it was, saying it was a family treasure. Lu Shu understood perfectly that they intended to dig for treasures right in front of him, and reflected that he wasn't charitable enough to let them collect valuable items under his nose. So, to deal with them without letting anyone escape, he used a spell to conceal his identity. He grabbed the fire user's motorcycle and ran off carrying it on his back. He ran until nightfall with the motorcycle on his back, even jumping over a bus while carrying it, startling the driver and co-driver. Meanwhile, the owner of the motorcycle was running as fast as he could, with his pursuers behind him. At one point, he called the vendor and asked him to meet him on the way to the mountain. The fat vendor arrived quickly, and the owner informed him that a man had stolen his motorcycle and was running with it on his shoulder. The motorcycle owner didn't know anyone capable of doing this, so he asked the vendor if he had angered anyone recently, and the vendor denied it. Without much information, they decided to head to Mount Huey to not lose the items there, but they lost confidence remembering that they would have to run there since the motorcycle they planned to use was stolen. Meanwhile, the Celestial Network received messages from people reporting a man carrying a motorcycle on his back. They checked their cameras and saw Lu Shu moving rapidly. No matter how many agents they deployed, Lu Shu was moving too fast, and his disguise made it impossible to identify him. They decided to set up a trap in the city, but Lu Shu didn't show up there, leading them to conclude he was still on the road. Lu Shu left the motorcycle at the top of a mountain and remembered Lydian's compass, which allowed him to locate an energy explosion. He focused and successfully found this energy. He then discovered a place with very soft sand and used one of the spears he had obtained to pierce the ground, uncovering something very interesting. He broke through the entrance and entered what seemed to be an excavation mine. The place was full of traps, but Lu Shu easily avoided them, even remarking that not even a 230-year-old Chinese elder would fall for such useless traps. As he progressed through the dungeon, he found an altar with half a mirror. He channeled his energy into it and nearly blinded himself. They called the item a nothing bomb. Lu Shu sensed some negative emotions, indicating that his pursuers had arrived. They were fighting near the dungeon, blaming each other for leaking information about the dungeon with legendary items. However, they decided to stop fighting and find the dungeon quickly before it was too late. Since their enemy was already inside, Lydian asked his business partner to burn the entire dungeon. Before they could, Lu Shu communicated with them, offering the mirror in exchange for being allowed to leave alive. They agreed, and he tossed the mirror. The men doubted whether it was the real item. Lu Shu told them to test it by channeling their energy into it. They did so and ended up blinded, just like Lu Shu. Our hero grabbed the mirror, and even when attacked, the firepower of blinded enemies was nothing to him. Lu Shu then fled again, carrying the motorcycle on his back, leaving the two men with no choice but to pursue him on foot. Along the way, Celestial Network agents appeared, asking what they were doing in the remote area on foot. When the question was asked, the blonde man started running, leaving the vendor no choice but to run as well. However, the vendor was captured by a Celestial Network member and abandoned by his companion. He decided to report him, revealing that he was the ranked D fire user wanted by the Celestial Network. Angered by the betrayal, the fire user tried to kill Lydian, but he defended himself with a special fire blanket, and the vendor was killed. The fire user tried to kill Lydian again, but he defended himself with a special blanket. Members of the Celestial Network recognized the fire user, saying he always escapes by burning everything, and that he had even killed 3 members of the network. Enraged, the man driving the car revealed that he was a ranked B specialist. The fire user, fearing for his life, ended up surrendering, and after capturing him, the Celestial Network member asked about the man carrying the motorcycle. They explained everything. However, the Celestial Network member didn't believe them and asked about the special item at the center of the dungeon. They said it was half of the princess's mirror, which had the power to emit light with the force of the sun. However, they lost the item to the motorcycle thief and hadn't even seen what he looked like, as they were blinded. Lu Shu was running back as fast as he could, and finally returned to his sister, who was almost asleep outside the tent. He told her that he had defeated the villains and obtained the princess's mirror. Then Shelley asked if he had taken the mirror to give it to her. He said no, which made his sister angry. When she returned home, several cars passed by, carrying the 2 captured villains. Lu Shu noticed a large concentration of foreigners organizing nearby and realized that a ruin was really about to open there. He thought about reporting this to the Celestial Network, but had no idea how to explain how he knew this information. Upon arriving, Lu Shu met his friend Young, who revealed that all students who had achieved great merit in the special tournament could enter the ruins, and Lu Shu was one of them. This meant that the Celestial Network already knew everything. Young told him that the Celestial Network had even set up a military base there. The next day, everyone's sightseeing trip had to end because the historic ruin was about to open. While everyone was asking for a refund for the trip, Lu Shu was telling his sister that they should pack their things and head out to explore the ruins. This time, he really intended to take his sister with him. They had some trouble entering the military facility because of Shelley, but Young helped by presenting his rich person credentials, which allowed Shelley to enter the ruins without any issues. While there, Lu Shu sensed the presence of an old man, whom he called Tianlu. In the next scene, we see several people gathering to enter the new ruin that's about to open, all of them responsible for maintaining the resistance inside it. Then, we go back 2 months earlier, where Lu Shu is asking an old man to take a look at a sword he brought with him. The old man examines it and says it's a standard long sword issued by the Celestial Network, made from common materials, which leaves Lu Shu disappointed. The old man thinks Lu Shu is upset because the sword is useless. But in truth, Lu Shu is sad because it must be worth very little. This surprises the old man, and he tells Lu Shu that the sword can be strengthened. He then begins to tell a story about a celestial king who once guarded a border alongside a friend with no talent, who still insisted he would change the world. When the story ends, Lu Shu asks if people without talent can't cultivate. The old man says it's true, but even they can still change the fate of the world. At the time, that man claimed to have discovered the true nature of the world and said that everyone should follow it. Among such figures, there's also a man named Chen Bailey, who trained for years and became an extremely powerful cultivator. He now protects the southern part of the celestial network, though his temper isn't exactly great. Lu Shu finds it strange that someone who has trained for so long could still have such a bad attitude, but the old man says that if he hadn't trained, his temper would probably be even worse. Now, Lu Shu waits for the ruins to appear, wondering whether foreign practitioners are mixed among these people, because in the last ruin that opened, intruders were the biggest problem. On the way, Xiaoyu stops by a stall wanting to eat meat with potatoes, but Lu Shu drags her away since they need to set up their own camp. When they arrive, an overweight boy introduces himself as Chen, probably the 10th Chen in this story. Please don't judge me. Aside from having such a common name, he's an intermediate lieutenant with full strength at level E. I have no idea what that means, but it must be something. When Zhang introduces himself as a man, the 10th Chen looks disappointed because he thought Zhang was a woman. Right after that, Lu Shu notices Chen's expensive watch and gets excited. If this guy ever runs into trouble, Lu Shu will definitely help him in exchange for that watch. He starts asking weird questions about it, making Chen very uncomfortable, which earns Lu Shu some points. Next, a man in a suit introduces himself as Gao, a mid-level lieutenant of grade D who once fought on the frontier. He tries to act superior, asking everyone what their greatest achievements are. Lu Shu folds his arms and says his greatest skill is devouring the mother of his enemies. Gao just stands there trying to understand what that even means. Suddenly, the 10th Chen asks Lu Shu why he brought his little sister. He says that on the battlefield, everyone must move lightly and avoid carrying bags, but Lu Shu touches the boy's shoulder and says that even if he carried his sister in his arms, he'd still be lighter than him. And just like that, Lu Shu earns more points. When the meal is finally served, Xiaoyu makes sure to order a lot of food, which earns Lu Shu even more points. While eating, Xiaoyu asks Lu Shu if she can make more money than that fat boy since she's clearly stronger than him. She points out that the 10th Chen can't even see the squirrel sitting on her shoulder. But Lu Shu says maybe Chen has some hidden ability. Xiaoyu replies that his only ability is being a fat fighter. Meanwhile, the 10th Chen is gathering information about Gao and discovers that he's indeed quite strong. Zhang is also no pushover, being quite powerful himself. But when Chen checks Lu Shu's file, he's shocked to see that his abilities are classified, though during the last ruin, Lu Shu was credited with saving many people from the skeleton troops. Later, as Lu Shu observes who's wearing expensive stuff and who isn't, the 10th Chen proudly shows him his watch and says it's worth 80,000. Chen actually owns more expensive ones, but he chose to bring the cheap one this time. After that, everyone starts talking about Cao, a very strong warrior who fought on the front lines during the last ruin. She ignores the fat guy, greets Lu Shu and Zhang, and immediately walks away when Gao tries to talk to her, leaving both men visibly disappointed. Then Lu Shu asks Chen a few questions, and just before entering a tent, Zhang turns to him and asks if he plans to make money off the week again. Lu Shu answers yes, because he has a family to support. Then Zhang asks Lu Shu what he would choose, money or the nation's future. In response, Lu Shu says that he and his sister are humble, they don't need that much money anyway. Zhang feels a bit calmer after hearing that. Then he tells Lu Shu that the difficulty level of this ruin might be even higher than the last one. Out of nowhere, Xiaoyu shows up saying she found a beautiful place to take pictures and calls Lu Shu to go with her. They head to the spot and find an old man with long hair staring blankly into the distance. They turn to leave, but the old man, none other than the famous Qian Luo, invites them to come closer. The old man says he's heard that Lu Shu is very talented, but Lu Shu replies that he's even better at devouring other people's sisters. The old man gets annoyed and releases a bit of his power. He steps closer to Lu Shu and asks little Xiaoyu if she would like to train under him, since he senses great potential in her. But Xiaoyu immediately refuses. The old man then says that the next ruin will open soon and that they should be training instead of wandering around. The siblings thank him for the advice and turn to leave. At that moment, the old man asks Xiaoyu what kind of powers she has awakened. He says that although she can hide her strength from most people, he can clearly sense that her power surpasses everyone else's. Lu Shu admits that she's already rank D in strength, which makes the old man even more eager to train her. He tells her that if she trains under him, no one in the world would dare to lay a finger on her. But Xiaoyu refuses again, and when he asks why, she reveals that people say he has a bad temper. The old man gets furious and yells, "Who said that?" shouting so loud that the birds in the sky faint and fall down again. Suddenly, a thick mist begins to form around them, and the old man warns that the ruin is opening now, so everyone must get ready. The mist spreads over the area, and as the line forms, everyone starts advancing. The 10th Chen asks Lu Shu if he's really bringing his little sister along, but right then, the old man appears, calls Chen fat, and says that this little girl is one level above him. Chen gets ready to curse him out, but then realizes it's his grandfather and immediately goes silent. As they approach the entrance, Lu Shu tells his sister that if they get separated, he'll definitely find her again soon. She smiles, happy to finally be able to fight alongside her brother. Inside the ruins, Lu Shu ends up far from his sister. Nearby, he notices a group of frightened people. Then, a cultivator steps forward and takes command, and everyone agrees to follow him. First, the man says they need to choose a direction. One random guy suggests they follow the sun, and Lu Shu mocks him, saying that at night they can just follow the moon. The Ranka guy decides that climbing the mountains would be best, so they can choose a direction from there. Lu Shu laughs at them and says they should try climbing a tree first. The man agrees and tells Lu Shu to go up. Lu Shu refuses at first, saying it's dangerous, but then smiles and says that unlike them, he doesn't mind risking his life for his friends, obviously just to annoy everyone and earn more points. As soon as he starts climbing the tree, a snake attacks him, but Lu Shu grabs it, rips out its fangs, and throws it into the group of extras to score some points. When he reaches the top, Lu Shu quickly spots the center of the ruins. When the others ask if he saw anything, he mocks them again, saying the view up there is great. After that, Lu Shu finds some animal remains and calls everyone to take a look, but they ignore him, thinking it's another joke. Moving on, Lu Shu says he'll stop to set up camp. The group's leader orders everyone to keep going, believing Lu Shu is just being dramatic. Lu Shu hopes his sister is doing fine, and on the other side of the screen, we see her facing a giant boar. She summons a cultivator's spirit to fight it. Suddenly, Lu Shu starts earning a ton of points, meaning Xiaoyu is safe and making her enemies suffer. Then, several animals approach Lu Shu. He doesn't attack, and they don't attack him either. Out of nowhere, purple roots burst out of the trees and start attacking anything alive. The extras are hit, and Lu Shu realizes that his campsite is a safe zone far enough from the trees, which is why the animals gathered there. He could spend the night peacefully, but instead, he decides to bother the animals to earn more points. Meanwhile, the group of extras runs into another group. They need to stay away from the trees, but all the open areas are filled with powerful beasts. At that moment, the group's leader remembers the area where Lu Shu had camped and says he can guide everyone to a safe place. Upon reaching where Lu Shu is, everyone is shocked to see that he has apparently tamed all the animals. They ask what he's doing, and Lu Shu reveals that he's been removing the animals' rotten teeth. One guy asks Lu Shu to help them kill the beasts, but he refuses, saying they'll have to go through him first if they want to hurt those cute creatures. Lu Shu then asks the animals if they're going to attack the humans, and they shake their heads, promising to behave. That way, everyone settles into the safe zone, and the extras take the chance to apologize to Lu Shu for not believing in him earlier. Later, under the campfire's glow, one of the guys tries to convince Lu Shu to join them so they can all grow stronger together. But Lu Shu looks at the man's arm completely covered in wounds, and the guy tries to hide them at the last second. The next morning, Lu Shu leaves early. When everyone wakes up and prepares to move out, the new leader of the group wonders why Lu Shu didn't let them kill the animals. If they had, they'd have meat to eat now. Suddenly, they hear footsteps from some monstrous creature approaching until Xiaoyu appears, riding a giant boar surrounded by animals. The men ask who she is, and she introduces herself as Xiaoyu, an animal tamer. She says she's looking for Lu Shu, a tall, handsome guy who somehow manages to irritate everyone around him. Far away, Lu Shu sneezes. While the guy with one closed eye tells Xiaoyu that Lu Shu went left early in the morning. She happily goes after her brother, but the one she finds is 10th Chen, the fat guy who's been stopping every 100 meters to pee. The boar thought he was her brother. Meanwhile, Lu Shu continues pulling out snake fangs along his path when he senses Xiaoyu intimidating 10th Chen. He's thrilled by the bonus points and excited to see his sister again. Suddenly, a group of people shows up, and Lu Shu thinks about tossing a snake at them to farm points, but decides against it. Instead, he suddenly appears and says he's there to take their mother, earning thousands of negative emotion points in the process. Lu Shu keeps following the group, trying to figure out who among them might be the imposter. Out of nowhere, an animal tries to attack them, but Lu Shu grabs it and sends it away. Some men ask why he doesn't just kill the beasts, but he says he only kills single mothers, striking a ridiculous pose followed by another guy who happens to like the same type of woman, mimicking his stance. Then, Lu Shu senses a wave of negative emotions and identifies one of the imposters. Suddenly, a monkey leaps through the trees, and when one man moves to kill it, Lu Shu stops him, saying he'll take care of it. We then see several animals filled with negative emotions until Lu Shu calms them all by removing their sharp fangs. When night falls, everyone notices the animals haven't shown up in the safe zone. They conclude the beasts must be afraid of someone powerful. When the imposter separates from the group, Lu Shu follows him to farm some negative points. He first borrows the man's sword, pretending to hand it back, but grips it tightly, stopping the imposter from taking it. Then, the moment Lu Shu releases it, he vanishes from in front of him and reappears back at camp. After that, everyone organizes shifts to stand guard while the others sleep. 3 hours later, the imposter becomes the new night watchman. The first thing he does is try to kill Lu Shu, but our hero suddenly wakes up, saying he was dreaming about goth girls. Then the watchman's mother appears in his dream, scaring him senseless. Everyone gets annoyed for being woken up, so Lu Shu goes back to sleep, and the imposter gives up on killing killing him. Not that it would have worked anyway, Lu Shu was still watching him the whole time. The imposter runs off into the forest, struggling against the roots trying to kill him. Lu Shu appears, and though the imposter attacks, he's defeated in seconds. Trying to escape, he's stopped when Lu Shu hurls a spear that slices through the vegetation, terrifying him. Only after feeling the fear of death does he surrender. Lu Shu searches his clothes and belongings for valuables but finds nothing. He then asks how many imposters have infiltrated. Scared for his life, the man admits there are many, including some powerful rank B ones. Lu Shu realizes the imposters are actually quite weak, but the man reveals they had plans to contain the stronger cultivators. Lu Shu then grabs a plate of his stinky tofu, the one he sells on the street for 5 Chinese coins, and offers it to the imposter in exchange for more information. However, the killer tree reacts to the tofu, trying to use it as fertilizer. The imposter takes the chance to run, and Lu Shu quickly snatches the tofu back from the tree. After all, it's worth 5 Chinese coin. As the imposter runs, he gets hit by a jar Lu Shu throws in a fit of rage. Just a few seconds of distraction are enough for the killer tree to catch him and devour him alive. Lu Shu could have saved him, but he feels no pity for someone who would have killed him without hesitation. Later that night, during the guard rotation, everyone notices that the man named Lai Lai has vanished. They go searching for him and end up fighting off trees, but morning comes and there's still no sign of him. Everyone decides to keep moving toward the ruins, but suddenly, an animal appears growling. Yet, when it sees Lu Shu, it bolts away in fear. Lu Shu chases after it, and after a while, everyone starts worrying since he still hasn't come back. Meanwhile, Lu Shu is thrilled. He's just unlocked the 7th star of his cheat system. He spends some time experimenting with his new ability until suddenly he spots Lai Dian sneaking by. Lu Shu then pretends to be the grandma of the forest, telling the man to drop all his valuables, or he'll remove the veil that keeps him hidden from the forest's roots at night. The man reluctantly leaves behind a relic that points toward the strongest spiritual power nearby, and right now, it's pointing to the center of the ruins. Lu Shu is pleased and walks away to continue searching for his sister. Meanwhile, the chubby guy who stayed behind gets approached by 2 strangers. The story then jumps back a bit. We see the fat man and his friend, a fire magic user, handcuffed inside a tent. They're freed by a black market buyer, whose goal is simple. He wants the valuable relics hidden in the ruins, especially the formation eye, the most precious one. He explains that a single item like that could reshape the land however one desires, so the two must do their best to retrieve it. The man with glasses whispers to the blonde guy that all he really wants is the formation eye. Everything else they find can go to him and his overweight partner. The fat guy warns his friend that the raid on the ruins is being led by that short-tempered old man, and if they're caught, who knows what that crazy geezer might do to them. But the man with glasses reassures them, saying he has a secret weapon to deal with the old man, someone named Anthony Smith, an incredibly strong warrior who once invaded the ruins alone. Back in the present, the man with glasses tells everyone the old man is currently trapped in a fight and urges them to hurry. The fire mage asks the fat guy to use his spiritual compass, but unfortunately, that item was confiscated by the forest grandma. The scene shifts. The old man is now being confronted by Anthony. The enemy bursts from underground, trying a surprise attack, but the elder easily deflects it with his flying sword. He then mocks his opponent, calling him a foreign demon, and demands to know who hired him. The stranger says nothing and attacks again, but the old man blocks it once more, his sword strike causing a huge explosion that shakes the forest. Meanwhile, Lu Shu is taming forest animals' farming points by pulling out their rotten teeth. That way, he helps them and earns plenty of negative emotion points from the pain they feel. Lu Shu continues on and finds a completely destroyed area, where he discovers the old man lying on the ground, wounded. The elder says he fought a powerful opponent, but insists the enemy took heavier damage than he did. Now he just needs to recover before the enemy does. Suddenly, the enemy attempts to finish him off, but the old man reacts instantly, defending and counterattacking. Lu Shu is fascinated by their power levels. After all, the enemy is rank B, and the elder is likely rank A or high B, a respected legend in his own right. The old man warns that the enemy will now retreat to recover, but Lu Shu says they can't let him escape, since the elder's recovery rate is slower than a young man. The elder tells him not to go. Lu Shu hasn't even reached rank C yet, but Lu Shu ignores the warning and goes after the enemy until he finds a massive sandstorm of spiritual energy swirling ahead. He does the best he can, coating his body in spiritual energy and punching the sandstorm with all his strength. His strike is so powerful that it turns the storm's sand into molten lava, and he quickly closes in on his wounded enemy with a menacing smile. The injured foe tries to flee, but Lu Shu relentlessly pursues him, intent on finishing him off. Even wounded, the enemy is still a rank B cultivator and won't be captured easily. He does everything he can to avoid Lu Shu, but in the end, he ends up on his knees, nearly dead. However, thinking of his family, he refuses to give up, gathering the last of his strength. He launches homing spears of earth. Lu Shu tries to defend himself, swinging his sword, but a few spears break through and fly toward him. At the last second, second, he consults his system to summon a new weapon for both defense and counterattack. The enemy still doesn't give up. He burrows underground again, trying to escape, but Lu Shu refuses to stop until he takes his soul. While running, the enemy kills a group of animals, which enrages Lu Shu even more, making him chase the man with renewed fury. The sound of Lu Shu's attacks against Anthony draws everyone's attention, including the raiders. They conclude that the massive explosion must have come from a clash between two powerful masters, likely the second impact between them. The 10th Chen and Xiaoyu also hear the second blast, and Xiaoyu grows worried about her brother. She calls her giant boar, whom she named Pipipi, to go check it out. But suddenly, she senses an enemy moving underground. After a quick analysis, she concludes that he's her brother's foe and that she must eliminate him. She slams the ground with all her strength and declares the job done. The 10th Chen asks what she did, and she calmly replies that she killed an enemy. He doesn't believe her until Xiaoyu orders her boar to dig up the body, revealing the man pierced clean through the chest by her strike. While Chen stands there, stunned, Xiaoyu uses her shadow power to read the dead man's memories. She learns that he was hired to assassinate the oldest man to appear in this anime. He had fought the elder but failed to defeat him, then was hunted by Lu Shu, only to die by her hands. Afterward, she asks Chen what kind of reward they'll get for killing the invader who tried to harm his grandfather. Chen says they'll gain many advantages. Not wanting attention, Xiaoyu decides to trade the man's corpse for Chen's expensive watch. The chubby guy reluctantly agrees, grumbling that she and Lu Shu are exactly the same when it comes to money. Meanwhile, Lu Shu collects the fallen enemy's weapon, a rank B artifact, clearly very powerful. He stores it inside his treasure, and suddenly remembers the old man, who might be dead, and Lu Shu could be blamed for abandoning him to chase the enemy. He runs for a long time and finally finds the elder just as daylight breaks. The old man is meditating, gathering spiritual energy, but it doesn't seem to help much. He nearly dies when Lu Shu interrupts his concentration. The elder asks what happened to the enemy, and Lu Shu says he killed him. The old man doesn't believe it after all. Lu Shu is only rank E and could never defeat a rank B. Lu Shu replies that he's no longer rank E, he advanced during the fight. The old man, shocked, demands to know how far he's progressed. Lu Shu calmly says he's now rank C. The elder asks where the enemy's body is, and Lu Shu answers that he died underground while trying to escape. The old man still doesn't believe him and asks for Lu Shu's help to reach the center of the ruins while he recovers. Lu Shu insists he really killed the enemy, but the old man refuses to accept it. So, Lu Shu starts running, carrying the old man on his back toward the center of the ruins. On the way, he lets the elder's head bump into several trees, and since the old man is still weak from battle, he soon starts passing out. Lu Shu asks which way to go. The old man points weakly, then faints completely. Lu Shu smiles, relieved now that the geezer's out cold. He can finally use the compass to find the right direction. Eventually, they reach an open clearing, where Lu Shu finds the squirrel his sister tamed. He sets the old man down to rest, covering his face with a cloth. Then, Lu Shu notices the squirrel is desperately interested in a certain plant nearby. He tries to make it confess what's so special about it, but the little creature lies through its teeth. So, Lu Shu approaches the plant and harvests it using his treasure, but he can't collect it entirely, only the leaves. And once that happens, some fruits grow from the leaves, and those were the ones the squirrel wanted. Lu Shu quickly stores them away, and suddenly, the old man wakes up asking if night has already fallen. Lu Shu becomes afraid the old man might ask about the fruits, so he runs over and says it's still daytime. The old man asks about the fruits, and Lu Shu lies, saying the squirrel ate them all. The old man clearly realizes Lu Shu is lying but reveals he has no interest in stealing the treasure a student found. Lu Shu notices that the old man doesn't show any negative emotion, even while suspecting he took the fruits. So Lu Shu takes out his own fruits different from the originals, but still excellent, and offers one to the old man. The old man refuses, saying he doesn't want Lu Shu's treasure, but Lu Shu insists, forcing him to eat it so he can recover. As the old man chews the fruit, he feels his spiritual cycle renew itself. Grateful, he thanks Lu Shu deeply, and says he now needs to gather a great amount of spiritual energy from the surroundings to awaken even stronger. While the old man meditates, Xiaoyu approaches with Chen's decoy floating in the air. Chen quickly rushes to his grandfather to show him photos of the defeated enemy. The old man looks at Lu Shu and realizes he really did eliminate the enemy, so he doesn't believe his grandson's words. Lu Shu notices Chen isn't wearing his watch and sees Xiaoyu using it, so he lies to the old man, saying the old man's grandson helped him deliver the final blow. Right after that, fireworks appear in the sky, meaning a group has found the entrance to the ruins. Lu Shu decides to head there, and since the old man needs to absorb energy to grow stronger, he asks Xiaoyu and Chen to stay with him, but Xiaoyu refuses and insists on going along. Lu Shu then asks Chen to stay with his grandfather. Chen asks how his grandfather will become stronger, and Lu Shu reveals that once he finishes channeling spiritual energy, he'll probably reach rank A. On their way, Lu Shu and Xiaoyu encounter several imposters. Lu Shu sees them using hand signs to indicate their assigned number. He checks his system, searching for the number of the imposter he previously eliminated. After finding it, he puts on the imposter's clothes and confidently walks toward the others. When they appear, he mimics the hand signs corresponding to the dead imposter's number, and luckily, it works. The imposters leave, allowing Lu Shu to advance to the ruins center. However, inside, everyone is an imposter, leaving Lu Shu uncertain about what to do next. Meanwhile, the real members, those who aren't imposters, arrive at the site where the old man fought earlier. After a quick analysis of the battlefield, they conclude that he fought an imposter. At the same time, Lu Shu stands among the imposters, analyzing their spiritual energy. He realizes he could easily devour every single one of them, but he's still wary that one of them might be strong enough to fight back. Looking more closely, Lu Shu senses that some of them might be concealing their true power. He approaches and hears them discussing whether the old man is really dead. They now face a barrier that only opens at night, so the imposter commander orders one of his subordinates to try breaking through it. The man uses his power on the barrier, and while this happens, Lu Shu thinks about how he can delay them until the old man arrives. What he doesn't expect is that the fire mage is standing right beside him, and to make things worse, the man recognizes Lu Shu, remembering the time he was completely defeated by him. He stands up and speaks loudly, drawing the leader's attention. The leader asks what's going on, and the blonde man says he once tried to burn Lu Shu but failed. Another fat man adds that he saw Lu Shu on the tourist bus. The leader then gives the order, and 3 people point their weapons at Lu Shu. But Lu Shu, who isn't weak, steps forward and forms several hand seals. If this were Naruto, he'd be attacking, but here, it's just a signal that he belongs to their group. He introduces himself under a fake name and claims he has something important to report. He declares that the old man is dead, shocking everyone. The leader asks how he knows, and Lu Shu says he saw it with his own eyes. The leader demands proof, so Lu Shu takes out a bit of white sand and explains that the old man was pierced and killed by it, and that he collected this sand as proof of his death. The leader bursts out laughing with satisfaction and loudly announces the news to everyone, calming them down since now, no one can challenge them anymore. The leader orders the fire guy to use his power to burn the barrier, since it was made from the wood of the sacred tree. While the fire user tries to melt through it, Lu Shu silently wishes the old man would hurry and reach rank A to finish off everyone before they can take the treasure from the ruins. Suddenly, the leader tells everyone to stop what they're doing. Someone has arrived. It turns out to be one of Lu Shu's friends, but the imposter leader blocks him from going any further, which actually works out well for Lu Shu, and for me too, since I already forgot this femboy's name. The imposter leader first pretends everything's fine and tries to distract the good guys so they don't even look at the ruins gate. But suddenly, one of the imposters tries to stab the prettiest girl in the group from behind. She reacts instantly, taking out 2 imposters in less than a second, then announces that everyone in front of them are imposters. A battle immediately breaks out between the imposters and the real ones. Unfortunately, the real ones are outnumbered. Lu Shu sends a message to his sister through the little squirrel, and when she receives it, she smiles wickedly. She quickly charges in with her animals, and they start wiping out the imposters. She shouts that the animals are allies, and everyone gets fired up with this huge reinforcement. They might actually win. The battle heats up, and the imposter leader starts to feel pressured by the enemy's strength. Lu Shu then shouts for the imposters to hurry and burn the door, but he does it on purpose, to draw his femboy friend's attention. The femboy rushes in and begins fighting the fire user. He can't defeat him, and to make things worse, the enemy summons a blazing phoenix and uses it to blast the ruins barrier open. The explosion is so intense that the femboy nearly takes 2 kunai to the face, but the pretty girl blocks them just in time. Lu Shu notices another guy preparing to throw more hidden kunai, so he uses his power to mess with the man's aim, then shouts that the guy is an imposter among the imposters. It sounds crazy, but moments later, the man is stabbed in the back by his own companion. Right after that, the organization's leader decides to open the ruins door once and for all. He draws a sword that looks special, and Lu Shu immediately realizes it's a rank B weapon. It's possible that even the imposter expedition leader himself is rank B because his strike, combined with the fire's power, finally opens the ruins entrance. The leader charges inside after the treasure, and Lu Shu has no choice but to follow him. At that moment, his sister sees him running ahead and tries to follow. But as reinforcements arrive, all the imposters rush to get inside the ruins too. They get stuck at the entrance, pushing and shoving each other. Even the fire user ends up trapped at the door. He sees the reinforcements approaching and creates a wall of fire to block their way. but one guy charges straight through the flames and is about to hit him when suddenly, the fat imposter switches sides and knocks the fire user out cold. Inside the ruins, several imposters are already dying to the defense mechanism, while those who stayed outside are captured. Now it's the real ones' turn to pursue the imposters. As they enter, poor Xiaoyu rides in on her giant boar, yelling for her brother to wait for her, and this brings us closer to the final episode of Season 2. Something that truly breaks my heart, but I'm sure one day this anime will get a third season. Once the real ones enter the ruins, they realize some people have already been devoured by the roots. The femboy, using his lantern, spots a cluster of roots moving to attack and quickly defends himself. At the same time, everyone is ambushed, and with no other choice, he yells for them all to move forward quickly. But then, the ground starts shaking and suddenly, a massive Elden Ring-style plant monster bursts out, capturing several unfortunate extras. The femboy and Kinsey rush in, slashing through the tree's roots, and Kinsey even uses a move that looks just like something straight out of Attack on Titan to slice a giant root. Even so, several of the extras are caught, and the tree prepares to swallow them whole, but little Xiaoyu appears and breaks the mini-boss's stance. Kinsey immediately dashes in and destroys the enemy's spiritual core, saving everyone. She then asks where Lu Shu ran off to, and the scene cuts to him surrounded by imposters struggling to move forward because the roots are attacking anyone with high spiritual energy. Lu Shu, of course, is suppressing his immense aura. He takes advantage of every small opening to make a few imposters die one by one. However, the leader orders everyone to regroup, and one of the extras quickly raises a barrier that prevents the creatures from detecting their spiritual energy. This way, they can move forward without too much trouble. The leader tells everyone that he'll need their help to conquer this ruin and warns that anyone who falls behind will be left to die. While everyone gathers together, Lu Shu starts thinking about how he can extract negative emotions from these imposters. Then he remembers his stinky tofu and summons a piece of it into his hand. Immediately, everyone inside the barrier begins to smell something like 3 homeless men blended in a mixer. But the imposters came prepared. They quickly put on chemical masks, saying the air around them is contaminated. However, because of the smell, the creatures are able to detect them again. The leader starts shouting, demanding to know who the imposter responsible for that stench is, and chaos breaks out as they start accusing each other of being the smelly one. Fortunately, Lu Shu bathes every day and doesn't look like someone filthy. But because of the odor, the barrier begins to collapse and everyone starts running. Lu Shu begins throwing pieces of stinky tofu at people like a zoo monkey flinging poop at humans until suddenly, a monster nearly attacks him. He's saved by a man, who then realizes Lu Shu is the one causing all the chaos. Lu Shu throws the stinky tofu right in the man's face, making him even angrier. The man screams to everyone that Lu Shu is the imposter. Lu Shu laughs in their faces, saying they're imposters complaining about another imposter. Then, as he runs away, he dumps a whole bucket of stinky tofu on them and shouts loudly that they've been seasoned. Moments later, monsters appear in huge groups and attack everyone. People start falling one after another, but one man manages to escape the monsters and goes straight for Lu Shu. In response, Lu Shu summons his spiritual blade and slashes the man, shattering even his sword. But the man doesn't give up. He grabs his broken blade and charges again at Lu Shu. In the end, all he earns is a cold and painful death from Lu Shu's spiritual blade. Meanwhile, the imposter leader reaches the area of the Eye of the Ruins. He lights a signal flare and prepares to claim the greatest prize hidden there. His subordinates ask how they're going to solve the ruins challenge, and even though the leader has no idea, he simply says that the old man is dead, so they have all the time they need. Lu Shu watches them talking and laughs, saying that old man will appear again even stronger. He then tries to sneak closer to the ruins' core, but the imposter leader suddenly attacks him and demands to know who he is. Lu Shu replies that he is the one who devours everyone's mother, someone far superior, even to their leader. He flashes an empty work ID and quickly tucks it back into his pocket. Everyone grows more cautious around Lu Shu, and he keeps buying time for the old man to show up, warning them that if they don't follow his orders, he'll devour their mothers too. Meanwhile, the old man continues absorbing the surrounding energy, and now several people find him rejoicing that he's still alive. Back on Lu Shu's side, even surrounded, he declares that he's going to devour their mothers for their disrespect. He pulls out a mirror that can blind everyone, and while they're dazzled, he starts running. They chase after him, but Lu Shu retaliates, summoning multiple spears to attack from a distance. He even manages to strike the leader, but the man is protected by something like Satoru Gojo's Mugen. The leader and his subordinates prepare for a final blow. In response, Lu Shu gathers all the knowledge he gained from his neighbor back at the beginning of Season 2 and channels it into his next strike. The leader senses a deadly attack approaching and uses uses his rank B sword to block it, but even so, he nearly loses his head. After that, the three imposters are forced into defense against Lu Shu. He laughs, swings his sword, and prepares for another strike. But when he slashes toward them, they defend themselves for nothing because Lu Shu didn't actually attack. Deep down, all he really wants is for someone to show up and help him. Meanwhile, the old man is farming enormous amounts of aura, becoming stronger and stronger. Suddenly, an earthquake shakes everything. Xiaoyu starts getting closer to Lu Shu. He smiles and shouts that he's going to devour their mothers, but then the entrance where his friends were coming through suddenly closes. That happens because some kind of boss has just awakened, and now everyone is trapped inside. For some reason, the imposter leader is confident he'll survive. He orders his subordinates to give their lives for him, and they actually kill themselves on the spot. Realizing the situation just got serious, Lu Shu summons two staffs to defend himself. At the same time, the imposter leader faints, leaving only a red shadow of himself standing, screaming like a Call of Duty zombie at Lu Shu. Our favorite Chinese troublemaker takes a hit that completely shatters his batons. Lu Shu starts getting attacked by the ruins' roots, while a beautiful woman appears in the background watching him. With no other choice, Lu Shu begins to run for his life while being assaulted by dozens of roots, reminding me of that cursed boss from Dark Souls 1. Meanwhile, the beautiful woman transforms into a grotesque abomination, but still, I wouldn't say no to that body. Lu Shu keeps running, and to make things worse, the leader of the organization attacks him in that same red spirit form, like some wandering ghost. Lu Shu is then forced to make the animators spend the entire season's budget just for him to escape, but he takes multiple hits and ends up completely wrecked on the ground, barely able to move, while that damned red spirit keeps pounding him relentlessly. He's suddenly grabbed by the tree woman, who opens her lovely mouth wide, ready to devour him. In that moment, Lu Shu reflects on his life, remembering that he's the man who devours women, but in the end, he's the one about to be devoured. His sister and the femboy desperately try to break through the roots to save Lu Shu. Xiaoyu senses Lu Shu's energy fading and starts screaming in panic. Then, the Chinese Eren appears. His name is Nai Ting, and his presence drives the plant woman insane, while the red spirit also feels threatened. Both the woman and the spirit attack Eren, but their attacks don't seem to affect him at all. With a single strike, he deals enough damage to free Lu Shu. At the same time, the old man wakes up in great spirits, and 10th Chen asks him to help Lu Shu. The old man flies off joyfully. Now being the world's first rank of at least, that's what his grandson told him. Meanwhile, Eren reveals that he's been watching everything the whole time, which annoys Lu Shu since he nearly sacrificed his life for nothing, all for the sake of the country. The red spirit tries to attack Lu Shu again, but Eren eliminates it instantly. After that, he explains that he's been observing all the students' battles to evaluate them, and he tells Lu Shu that his performance was excellent. He asks Lu Shu to meet him soon. Lu Shu feels uneasy about his powers being exposed so suddenly, and both he and Eren jump in surprise when the old man suddenly shows up. The old man senses Eren's presence and realizes he was used as bait. Furious, he's about to yell at Eren, but Eren has already taken the formation I, officially ending the ruins mission. Before heading back to Beijing, the Supreme Elder tells Lu Shu that he'll reward him handsomely for his efforts. Everyone looks at Lu Shu with admiration, as he's finally being recognized for his deeds. His sister appears right after, overjoyed that he's alive. She cries in his arms, saying she thought he was dead. He tells her he's fine and still breathing, and then she asks if they can go home. Before leaving, they chat for a bit while Xiaoyu shows the many pictures she took of the beautiful landscape. She asks if the photos turned out well, and he just laughs at her. And that's how Season 2 of Spare Me, Great Lord, comes to an end. If you want to see more videos and recaps like this one, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and keep following my uploads.